Like to call to order to the Board of Education meeting on September 19, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for coming out today. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Slinger for his superintendent's comments.
Good evening, everyone. We're off and running. It's great to see so many happy faces here tonight because we have some very special guests with us here this evening. A number of students that we're going to recognize. We also have a number of staff members that are going to speak about these individuals who are obviously pretty amazing. And we're always looking for student recognition. So I tell people all the time, if there's something that we'd like to recognize, or you'd like to see it recognized, feel free to contact my office. We're always up for that. So we're going to start tonight with, there's a number of different awards that we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. And we're going to start off, and we're going to be looking at first, we will do Dylan Fella. I would ask Coach Shaver to come forward, please. And we're going to, the way we're going to do this is basically I'm going to ask, that's fine, come on, Rob. We're going to ask, obviously, the individual that's here tonight to speak about the child. We're going to take some pictures up front, board president, vice president, as well as coach. Family can take any pictures that they want, and then we'll go to the next person. So at this point in time,
we're going one or two.
We're going to do one first, and then we'll do the second one.
We're going to talk about Dylan Fella, who's selected for the Newsday top 100 for football players. Dylan was one of our leading rushers last year. He's a great kid. He was on our state championship wrestling team also. And again, they selected him. They believe he's going to be probably an All Long Island football player this year, which I completely agree with. The good thing for us, he's still a junior. So, you know, we got a good future with him at the helm. Like I said, he got stuck playing a little quarterback last year in our playoff game. But towards the end of the year, he was, like I said, he struck for 320 yards against Lynbrook or something like that, a number of touchdowns. So we're real proud of him, and congratulations to him.
Please. Dylan, we're going to actually move over here to the side. I'm just going to speak. Actually, congratulations to you and your family, and obviously hard work, as well as Coach Shaver and the team. Thank you. All right, so at this time, I'd like to do is like Coach Shaver to come on up if you could, please. Sure.
Yeah, it's not my award.
Family can get up if they want to take any pictures at all. And I asked the president, vice president to join us, flank us left and right, please. As well. Maureen, you're on again.
Again. What's this? Thank you.
Where am I? You doing good? Next up, Coach Shaver, I ask you to remain.
We have a second one also. We had Alec Anderson was selected to the top 100 also. Alec's the top prospect at wide receiver this year. More impressively, Alec's been working incredibly hard this year, and on the recruiting path, we've gotten a number of interesting colleges. The reason I say interesting is I should say more impressive. He's being recruited right now by Johns Hopkins, MIT, and most of the Ivies, I'm sure, are going to jump on him pretty soon. That's going to be with a good senior year. I don't know if you guys know, but the Ivy Leagues are actually very good football teams. So hopefully he'll be able to get in with those. So that will probably come after another couple games. He's been tearing it up already, and we have super expectations. He also plays basketball. He's a very well-rounded kid, one of the nicest kids you'll ever meet. Unfortunately, he is a senior. So maybe we can get the Andersons to the Poconos or something and have a few more kids. Take up a collection for him. So, again, Alec Anderson, outstanding football player, who's Newsday's top 100. Congratulations, Alec.
At this time, I'd like to invite the principal and Ayoko to step up. He also is a dual award winner, so this is actually something that's highly unique. Rob, don't go anywhere. please.
I got studied on a little.
So besides being an amazing athlete, Mr. Coach Shaver alluded to the fact that he's a well-rounded student as well. He is a national merit semifinalist. Only the top 1% of less than 1% of seniors in the country earn this honor. He has a 1510 on his SATs, 101.421 GPA. He's involved in multiple clubs. He's looking at going, when he goes to college, to be a mechanical engineer. So not only does he have his interests outlined for him, but he's also been pursuing internships to help set up that path for him in his future. And he does so many extracurriculars. He also holds down a job. I don't know how he does it all, but we're very lucky to have him here. Congratulations.
Right.
Well, for this one, I asked you to come forward and leave it.
Okay.
Congratulations. At this time, parents want to take any pictures and such, please step up, or we'll send you the pictures as well. And also, I'd like the president or vice president, please step up.
Wait, wait.
Oh, wait, sorry.
That's okay. Okay.
Doc, can I make one quick announcement?
Go right ahead.
All right, thanks. We need some help from our Plain Edge family and community. We had some wrestling and football signs that were up on, when you came up with Southern State. Our Matt Power Club and Quarterback Club paid for those. For whatever reason, they were taken down. I don't know who, I don't know why. It was the town, the county, I don't know, a mad parent, I don't know, whoever it was. If we can get some information on that and get those back to our two clubs, that would be great. I thought they were real nice. I thought they were something that was positive, but for some reason they disappeared. So anybody has any information, can you let us know so we can get them back to the Matt Power Club and Quarterback Club, and we can get them up somewhere else. So thanks so much. We appreciate your help.
Hi. This time, we're going to move on. I'm going to invite Principal Eric back to the microphone, and we're going to recognize Antonia Machia Barber. Speak on it.
Yeah.
She may be it.
Yeah, so she's not here right now, but she's being honored because she earned the AP Capstone Diploma. And in order to earn an AP Capstone Diploma, you have to meet multiple requirements. Normally, you earn an AP Capstone Diploma after your senior year, and you don't find out until after you graduate because the AP scores don't come out until the middle of July, and then the announcement doesn't come out to the end of August, early September. But Antonia achieved this in her junior year. She needed to have her AP seminar, AP research classes, both with scores above 3, and then she needed to have 4 additional AP exams that averaged a score of a 3 or higher. So before she even entered her senior year, she had all of this, so it's total of 7 exams with an average of 4.29 out of 5. So it is extremely impressive. She's done so well in high school already her junior year that her whole senior year she's taken at Nassau Community College and starting her college dual enrollment, so she's getting college credits and high school credits at the same time. She's also doing some high-level research right now with Mr. Bertolali for the Intel project, where she's researching the effects of social media on minors without their consent and seeing how that impacts them. And she's trying to push through with her research some action to protect minors from having their pictures posted on social media if they don't want them there. So she's an amazing young lady, and there's many great things to come from her. So we're very proud of her.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to invite back Ms. Lauren Iocco and Ms. Jessica Gual, please. Please approach the mic. We're going to recognize Ava Pallone, and the floor is yours.
So I'm just gonna say congratulations. It's good enough for me. Ava did an amazing job. You selected as an all-state musician, which is an extremely hard accomplishment. It's very rare to be selected for that. So she worked very hard all summer and all of the years prior. So we're all very proud of her. But yeah, well, I was gonna say.
So I am gonna I'm gonna speak a little bit about what it means to get into Allstate, and then I'm gonna talk about how awesome Ava is for a second. But if you have ever had a child go through NYSBA, Allstate is essentially a NYSBA audition. So Ava auditioned to get into Allstate. In order to do that, she had to play 3 scales, but she had to know all of the scales that exist, and the judge chose them randomly. And then she had to perform a solo, and that solo was not an arranged piece of music, made more approachable for a student musician. That solo was just a real piece of music. And then she had to do a little bit of sight reading, and she had to get 100. You get scored, and she had to get 100 on that in order to be selected. But not only did she have to get 100 on that, she had to be ranked first in her room by the judge that heard her. And I happen to know that the weekend that Ava auditioned, there were 3 or 4 other cellists that were heard in that room who all got 100. Of the 3 or 4 or 5 of them, Ava was ranked first. And that's because she's a truly remarkable musician. She is voracious in the way that she attacks her music. She learns so quickly. I've had the pleasure of teaching her directly. I'm a cellist and I got to teach her. It's very rare to have a student who will just take anything that you give them about technique and immediately implement it. She would come back from 1 week to the next, sounding more professional, more well-rounded in her musical technique. And that's a really, truly incredible thing. We're really proud of you. The department is really excited for you. When you go to Allstate, and you're working towards that preparation, we know that you're going to have to be incredibly self-critical as you are as a musician, which is part of what makes you an incredible musician. But we also want you to have so much fun when you're there, because you will be surrounded by other really, truly wonderful musicians. And we are really proud that you're representing Signage. So congratulations, Ava. Can we have Mrs. Rotolo join us for a photo?
Absolutely. So if you want to add anything, it's fine.
What? Oh, no. Okay.
Parents, obviously you can come up. Please.
Aw.
We'll send you the pictures we have as well.
Yeah.
Just look at that.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Wait, one more.
We're gonna take one more
One
picture.
more.
President, Vice President, please flank us.
You're never.
Thank you.
You're never getting it. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
At this time, I would ask Coach, Assistant Varsity Coach Dan Panto to please approach the microphone to speak on behalf of Mr. Anthony Galino.
How's it going, everyone? So this is my second year on the varsity team coaching, and had the pleasure to coach AJ for the past 2 years, and I think this is his 3rd year in a row for being top 100. I think second or third time, second time being all conference offensive player of the year and 3-time all county. With his amazing talents on the field, being a leading goal scorer right now and last year, the thing that stands out the most from coaching AJ is his character. He's incredibly humble, and he is hands down the hardest worker on the team. He doesn't let his athletic achievements get in the way of his friendships. He looks at everyone the same way that he should look at them. He looks at them as equals and his best friends. And each day he goes to practice and he works hard and he's humble. And I'm excited to see what comes after high school soccer for him. He's looking to play at a high level, probably D1, and all the achievements he gains after high school will be well deserved. And I look forward to seeing what he accomplishes.
Thank you, Coach. So we don't, if you want to get up and take a picture. I'll be in a picture. No, I think.
No, that's. I would have dressed differently. You're never gonna get in that picture.
At the board president, vice president, please to join us.
I got it. Thank you.
Coach Marissa Gianrusso, please approach Scott. How are you tonight? Thank you for joining us and making time to be here.
Thank you.
Tonight, we're going to celebrate Michaela Neto, and I would ask you to speak on her behalf.
Of course. Thank you for being here this evening. Unfortunately, Mr. Vitale couldn't be in attendance tonight due to other work obligations. However, we are extremely proud to recognize sophomore captain Michaela Neto on being named to Newsday's top 100 girls soccer players for 2024. This is a prestigious accomplishment in her career as only a sophomore. Michaela is a true leader on and off the field, and she's an outstanding defender, as by Newsday proclaims is the toughest defender to get around. We congratulate Michaela on this achievement and look forward to watching her dominate the field in her remaining time here at Signage.
I'd also like to recognize, which, is obviously something that she does outside of school, but it is an extension of what she does for school and how it makes her be a star player. She also is a member and was just recently recognized and named to the National All League Competition for Elite Clubs. The Elite Clubs National League is a national youth soccer developmental league in the United States. It was founded in 2009 as a girls' league and added a boys' league most recently. The truth of the matter is that that means that her family travels with her around the United States and has the opportunity to integrate herself with children from all around the United States that perform at the highest levels. And I have to be honest with you, I didn't know about this league until I actually read up on it. So I will congratulate you on that achievement as well. Doctors Neto, you can come forward and take pictures if you like. I would ask the president, vice president, to please join us for a picture. If family wants pictures, they're welcome as well. We'll send you all of our pictures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As we do on an annual basis. So first of all, I'd like to thank all the administrators who took the time to be with us tonight to speak about the opening of schools. While I could go on and on about all the amazing things, during the summer, it gets lonely around here because in general, it's a ghost town. And yes, there are programs that run, and we housed over 550 students this summer over at the middle school, and I was able to be with children and see our teachers in action. The truth of the matter is the real magic makers are amongst us tonight. Without these administrators, they would not be able to complete the vision of both the Board of Education as well as the Superintendent of Schools. And they do an amazing job every single day, and I trust them all. And I am happy that they're here to join us tonight. We're going to have a number of them speak tonight about the opening of schools, and I want to thank them for taking the time to be here. And we will start, we'll start with Principal Ayo at this point in time.
Good evening, everyone. So I know you want to hear from me again. So here we go. All right, we had a very great opening of school. We did a lot of preparation over the summer that allowed this to happen. And I just want to shout out really quickly the youth custodial staff at our school who helped get the building ready with the custodial staff. They did an amazing job. Everything was ready to go. They were here every day early in the morning, working to the end of the day, and they took pride in everything they do. So that's just a reflection of our students and the pride they take in their school to make everything amazing for us on a daily basis. Some other things that happened over the summer that led to a smooth open, where we got new furniture for some more classrooms, so we were updating classrooms. As you also see, the entrance in for the buses has been updated as we're doing our music project, along with the gym floor has been updated as well, and we're completing updating of the gym, so all the updates are really making the school shine. We also applied for the seal of civic readiness over the summer, so we're engaging our students in more civic activities with the community, because they're already doing things, and now we want to make sure they're recognized for all the great things that they do, and we'll be able to do that with the state. We added additional classes that when I've talked to the students, they tell me they're loving anatomy and physiology. They're absolutely loving that class. We also added a computer science class for all the ninth graders, so they're up to date with everything that's going on in the world around them. Our personal training class and a college video production class, which was advocated for by the students that they wanted to see, and they advocated for themselves, and now they have this opportunity to earn college credits for something they love doing. Also with student advocacy, we started some new clubs this year, a chess club, a mindfulness club, and an FBLA club. We have multiple new staff who are adjusting wonderfully. The new staff is working with the old staff and they're integrating everything in. We added multiple sections of an AP seminar that is being co-taught right now. And I've gone into that class and I've already heard the discussions. You would think they've been in this class for like 15 weeks, not 3 weeks. So everything is going great. We had a senior driving night already to teach seniors about safe driving, and they're always very responsive to that, and the parents absolutely love that. We had grade-wide assemblies, senior breakfast, and so many more things to come. I don't want to steal everyone else's stuff, so we're going to end there and just say we're looking forward to a wonderful school year.
Thank you for explaining. This time, I will invite the one and the only Principal Diviso to the front, middle school. Tony, keep it up to you, please.
Yeah,
Thank you for joining us.
thank you for having us. Welcome to 24-25. So this is my 16th season, and I have to tell you, day one could have been some random day in February. That's how smooth things are running. It's as if the kids never left. I know we got a new 6th grade and we went through an incredible, and I got some phone calls about how incredible our middle school transition program is, because we do so much. I meet with the parents sometime in April, May, then the kids come and see me and they spend a morning with me some weeks after that. Then I go to them and have breakfast with them. Then we have the orientation in midsummer. Then we have the middle school bound camp the week after that. Then they meet with the guidance counselors right off the bat in the first weeks. And now we're working on the middle school field day, which will take place, the 6th grade team field day, which will take place a week from Friday. And so I guess it just having been there so long, the things we do, they just seem to run so smoothly. And I've got this wonderful team. I've been with Jen Pulio's been with me now for my full 16 years, and even predates me. Vito Menino, what are we on, year 8 already? Is it year 8 already that we came back to the middle school? And there's so much going on. And because Lauren got to come up here at least, 4 times, and you said a lot, I'm gonna talk about some other things that are going on for us. Thank you to my great team, Jen and Vito, I really appreciate you guys. We've got 7 new teachers at the middle school this year. I don't need to be reinvigorated. I really love what I do. But they just have brought so much life and energy. I think we got 7 superstars this year, and they just bring so much to the table. You can just feel their energy in the building. We've done so much already. Today we had picture days. We had a wonderful back to school night. Today we also had our National Junior Honor Society fight, the fight against Alzheimer's. Everybody wore purple. We sold bracelets at the end of the day. Next week, student council will fight in the fight against pediatric cancer. We'll sell pretzels. We'll raise money in that fight. We are working on our second redesignation now as an essential elements school to watch. It's something we're incredibly proud of because it forces us to look at our practice as a building in every nook and cranny and continue to improve everything that we do year to year. You have to show continuous improvement to get redesignated. So this will be our second redesignated. We'll be writing an application all year. I'm proud to say that we've just been named the National School of Characters. It's something we're very excited about as well. Advisory is such a big part of what we do now. We'll have our second advisory tomorrow. The teams are hard at work selecting names and colors and logos, and it just brings so much energy to the building. They'll be decorating bulletin boards in the next couple of weeks, and it's not a competition, but it's like a competition, and it just really brightens up the halls and makes it really a special place to be. And I just wanted to mention some of the cool names that have come down the pike so far. We're still waiting on a few more. We're gonna have the stunning stingrays and the sea turtles and the gnarly narwhals. That's a new one. The dynamic dolphins. Here's one, the blue kangaroos. And I think that their motto is something to the effect of hop to the top. So we've got all these great things going on. Just a couple other quick things. We had our new entrant breakfast this morning. We had 15 new students to the district. That was a big hit. Thank you to the guidance department for really putting that together. We've got our first student of the month breakfast that'll happen next Friday. We're looking at the Leaders Club this year. Has got some new ideas, and Christy Dillon is working out a teacher student badminton tournament. And so we think that's going to be happening in the next couple of months. So that's something that's new. And we just put a new prize in we're working hard on our PBIS store, and we're always looking for new prizes to excite the kids. And we just put a new prize in there that Brian Smith, Brian Connors, and Dan Page will be working on. It's called Rocktoberfest. So anyone who gets this prize will get a 1-period rock concert / light show in our auditorium. And these are things that really excite the kids, and it helps them to really showcase our Plainedge pride. And so it's just been a fantastic opening. I couldn't tell you how much more proud I can be about our school. We've got an incredible middle school. I'm so proud to be a principal of middle school.
Okay. This time, I'd like to invite up our elementary school schools. Everybody introduce themselves, please, and we'll go from there.
This first, the only lady. Hi, I'm Jen Thurl, principal of Shorty Elementary.
Joe Maisano, principal of Johnny Quest. And Mark Cocarelli, principal of Eastland.
I'm just happy that they're not matching today because I feel very left out.
It happens on occasion, once a week usually.
What's so weird? No, it's no
Not
joke.
planned.
Yeah,
Not
they
planned.
are.
It's coincidental.
That's funny.
So they say.
No
I'm
one
not
believes that.
on that text thread.
I am normally dressed 2 hours before Joe. Okay, back to
Back to the rest.
opening day was a huge success in all 3 of the elementary school buildings. The children were excited to come to school, and the staff were excited to be back and meet new students. We're really happy that our UPK program has expanded to 9 classes this year, 6 at East Plain and 3 at Shorting. Our pre-K students are acclimating well to their new routines, and we're very excited that all students on the waiting list got a spot this year. Like last year, our transition to kindergarten are much smoother. Students have more kindergarten readiness skills. They're walking in line, sharing materials, and sitting on the carpet, as well as foundational academic skills such as letter names and letter sounds. So that's all thank you to the work of our fabulous UPK teachers.
We had Sail into Kindergarten, which we've done for a long time now, and that was successful again and very exciting to have all the kids back and meet their teachers and bring their supplies, riding the bus. And that happens the week before school starts. So even though they're in pre-K, because some of our kids are scattered around the district, it's like great to see them and they come in and then they're prepared. But I always see parents, they don't cry that day. But then we have school like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That Monday is when they cry because they're like, wait, we have to do this again. Like, we did it, and now you're making us come back again. So that's usually when we have a little bit. All three buildings had their welcome back party on either September 6th or the 13th. They were attended very well by families and staff and students. Had such a wonderful time celebrating. There were like awesome food trucks, and that has just like become like such a really great night at the schools. We also already had our back to school night on September 12th, where families came and learned about our new initiatives, saw the classroom, and met with their teachers to hear about all the great things that their children will be having this year. So it's been, and we've all had our PTA meetings. So it feels like, even though it just started, I feel like we've been back for a good length of time.
Some of the things that we kicked off that Jen's referring to is our Character Strong program, pre-K through 5th grade. We had assemblies in all three buildings, followed by lessons in the classrooms, teaching the students about what LEAD stands for. We lead to pride now, which is loyalty, empathy, accountability, and determination. I'm sure you all got the blasts, explaining how you can take those skills and replicate them in homes. So we're building well-rounded students together, the collaboration, both families and administrators and teachers. And how they can apply those characteristics in their lives. We did a lot of small group work, understanding those characteristics and how they can embody those. We paired our classroom teachers with special area teachers and support staff members like our psychologist, social worker, guidance counselors, AIS folks. Everyone's involved so that all staff are involved in our character development efforts. And all of our elementary buildings start off our day in that way with a morning meeting where these teachers collaborate and they work with students to understand what it means to be a good person and show their plain edge pride and embody that at all times. We also started our new math program, Envisions. Teachers were able to attend 2 professional development sessions right off the bat within the first 2 weeks of school to gain a greater understanding of how to enhance their teaching of math. There is ongoing support for them throughout the year because we want to make sure that they have all the tools necessary to successfully implement the new curriculum. Last Friday, all elementary schools made their mark, celebrating Dot Day as we do annually. Through STEAM, students listened to the book The Dot by Peter Reynolds and learned how they can make their mark on the world. The STEAM teachers led classes on a gallery walk throughout our hallways, showcasing student projects. As Jen said and Mark said, it's been a really great start to the school year. Feels like we never left, and we're excited for all the great things to come.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
So at this time, I'm going to invite a couple of people that traverse all grade levels, pre-K through 12, some before that even. I think that we'll start off first. I'll invite Ms. Bridget Murphy, Director of Guidance, and a million other things. Bridget, can I ask you to come to the mic, please, and speak a little bit about the opening of school?
Always happy to. I was wondering if you were going to make the Director of Guidance come up.
I almost did. I switched it up this year.
Take your time.
We did warn him. We did warn him. Special education is one of those departments that doesn't really take much of a break over the summer. So we are very grateful to our middle school friends for allowing us to host yet another amazing extended school year program at our middle school. We host a full day, 30-day program. This year we had approximately 85 special education students that participated in our program. 15 of them were students that are either here during the year and participate as a cross-contract student, and or people that we hosted from Island Trees or Seaford who don't have an extended school year program. So that was a nice addition. There are students that typically come back year after year. They love coming to see our middle school. They've developed friendships with our students, so it's really nice to have them come back again. We also had approximately 15 students that came in just to receive related services, again, to prevent regression. We are super excited that we opened a 4th 12-1-2 class at Schwarting. Our population, as we've discussed over the last couple of years, has continued to grow as word gets out about our amazing special education program. We hear on a regular basis from parents that they move here because they know our program offers all different types of things to our students. So we were really excited to be able to open a 4th class. We have brand new school psychologists, special education teachers, and speech and language therapists. They dropped in and started running immediately. It's like they've been here all along, so we're very happy to have them as well. And then the biggest news, I hope you all have your calendars out. May 3rd will be our Special Olympics spring date. We are starting to get ready to prepare that. I know a lot of members of our community were very active in helping make sure it was a very successful event. So we have started to activate everybody and get ready for that date. So I hope that you all will be with us on May 3rd. Saturday. That's it.
Thank you
There's
very
more we
much.
can get into.
Okay, a group picture while you're rolling. Last but not least, Mr. Greg Wasserman, our new Director of Guidance. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. My amazing colleagues have stolen a little bit of my wind, bringing up the rear, but there is no shortage of excitement in the world of guidance to share. You already heard on the elementary side, we kicked off our social emotional programming with Character Strong and sharing our core values as a district. Our social worker, elementary social worker, Ms. Bassatoro, Ms. DeTizio, our elementary counselor, held an assembly where the excitement in the room around our values and bringing our messages to life was palpable. It was very exciting. I learned about Ormy, a cartoon pig that apparently all the kids know about, that my kids are a little bit older, so we've aged out of that. But that care and excitement carries on throughout the year, and if this was the first step in that journey, it was setting a very high bar. With that in mind, we also welcome new students to all of our buildings throughout the early weeks of the school year. We have our new student breakfast happening at Schwarting on October 9th, our new student breakfast at East Plain on the 10th, and at John H. West on the 11th, which will be a great opportunity for our current students, as well as our faculty, to just continue to get to know and help to make the most comfortable environment here at Plainage for our new population. At the middle school, you heard about our new student breakfast, which was actually this morning. I participated as a new student, being that I am new to this district, and I was excited to be introduced. But we've been in full swing since the end of the summer, and I had the opportunity to visit our transition programming. And what I saw were classrooms filled with students engaged in activities, all designed to help them start the year fresh with the best foot forward. And that excitement certainly carried on and helped those students acclimate on that first day. Throughout the first couple of weeks, the counselors have pushed into the classes throughout 6th grade to ensure that students know all of the amazing support that exists around the middle school building, both from themselves, the social workers, psychologists, and so many familiar faces to them. In the high school, certainly at the end of the summer, we had our 9th grade orientation, and the students heard a really important program from Officer Natali surrounding social media protection and best practices and safety, which, as we all know, is so critical right now, really not even just in 9th grade, but for all students. Our new student breakfast is scheduled for October 10th, and we're very excited to connect and continue to support that population. We started the year focusing very early on the future for our 11th and 12th graders, hosting 2 mini college fairs with over 50 colleges joining us on each day. Amazing, we fit them in this room.
Yeah.
You would think they packed on top of each other with students coming and going throughout the entire time. We also started individual college visits with some very impressive schools lining up for one-on-one opportunities to connect with our kids. We hosted senior college night last Thursday, had a tremendous turnout to help prepare students, and most importantly, parents, for the what can be overwhelming road ahead. However, they've got tremendous support. So all of our counselors in the high school are in the process of meeting one-on-one with each one of their seniors to prepare them for that journey. Our free SAT and ACT prep classes are in full swing with over 50 students participating to help prepare them for the October SAT, which we will be hosting here at Plainedge. We have financial aid night to help afford all of those amazing colleges that our students are meeting, and we're hosting the PSAT as well in October. So quite a bit happening, both now and certainly throughout the year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This time, I'm going to ask the administrator to take a group picture and central administrator to join as well. Please, everybody. I see you out there.
Good idea, Bridget. You know what? I think you're better off going this way.
All right, we're gonna move.
Right.
Charge, go.
Little to the left.
And then you have to squeeze in a little bit.
I don't wanna go there.
Prom pose, yeah, sorry. Prom pose.
The prom pose. Oh, come on, guys, you gotta get a little closer than that.
You need people in the front?
Let's form a pyramid.
Oh, my God.
Kevin, I forget to share. I wear
Okay, we're gonna do one serious one, and we'll do one fun one.
Just let me know when you're ready, because I can only have so.
Make us look thin.
Everybody smile.
I
Thank
already do a
you.
fun one too, hang on, don't move yet. Fun one, keep it, let me know.
Oh, okay, still a
There
guy.
you go, do it tonight.
I'm not fun.
Come on, guy. I can't. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.
I'm
Gotta open it up.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
Go home.
fun.
I like a good picture.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Everyone's welcome to stay, of course. At this time, this concludes the superintendent's remarks, and I'll turn it back to the board president, Mr. Bailey.
Dr. Selena. Moving on to routine approvals. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 22nd, 2024 meeting? Mr. Morrissey? Pascarella, all in favor?
Okay, 6 in favor, motion carried.
A motion to approve the warrant reports 12 to 13, 15 to 17, 19 to 20, and 22 to 25. Mr. Morrissey, second, Mr. Garcia. All in favor?
6 in favor, motion carried.
A motion to approve the treasurer's report, July 2024. Mr. Garcia,
Second.
and Mr. Pascarella, all in favor?
6 in favor, motion carried.
Moving on to discussions and presentations.
At this time, as the board is aware, and. the board
Oh,
president-
sorry. So.
That's all you.
Yep, as the board's aware, there's going to be a dinner, a delegate discussion regarding resolutions proposed by the New York State School Boards Association. And at this time, I'd like to see if there's anyone who would like to be a delegate for this. At this, I mean, I'm happy to volunteer to be the delegate for this since I participated in one of the other calls when it had to do with proposing resolutions to NYSBA. And if everyone's happy with that,
I'll make a motion to delegate Mr. Bayrudy.
okay, thank you. Second, Mr. Morrissey, all in favor?
Okay, 6 in favor, motion carried.
Okay, the second item is to discuss the electric bus transition plan. Is there a motion to?
I'm sorry, Mr.
Do we need a
Bailey.
motion for this?
When we, as we discussed earlier, there were a number of resolutions that were brought up.
Oh, sorry.
So
yes.
what I would ask you to do at this point in time is to look at those resolutions that were brought to your attention by your fellow colleagues, trustees of the board, and go through those and then ultimately decide what resolutions you are choosing to. If there were no questions on a series of those resolutions, as we discussed, you can call them separately and then have a discussion on the others.
So I have a list, just to preface this, of some resolutions that I know have been put forward in terms of questions.
Does anyone have any others that they'd like to add before I move forward with the motions? No? Okay. So with respect to the NYSBA resolutions, I'd like a motion to approve items 1 through 37, less 3, 6, 10, 13, 15, 24, 25, 26, 30, 35, and 36. I'll second that.
Well, who's
First item.
first?
Here, one second. These are the additional ones, or, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, it's
Clarification.
1 through 37, less the item, the individual numbers.
Yes,
I read
so we're
off.
gonna vote first for
Consensus vote.
consensus,
Yeah.
just consensus. No motion required, for those, and then
no
we can
motion.
take a look at the actual, additional ones, and I'll read them aloud for you as you give me the number.
Okay, so, with, respect, the first one was, number 3.
Okay. One moment, please. Resolved that the New York State Board takes the leadership role in encouraging school boards to develop successful strategies and carrying out the mission. NYSBA shall encourage school boards to ensure the importance of acceptance of others, racial, ethnic, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, disability status, or religious differences. Invite discussion among students, parents, staff, and the community about how hatred and bigotry based on race, ethnicity, etc., and diversity principles for the nation for which we stand. Involve students, parents, staff, and community in developing and supporting educational plans that invite understanding and acceptance of others' differences. At this time, that concludes the reading of, not in full, but in part, which basically gives you the spirit of what this is about. So the board can choose at this point in time to discuss.
So I think one of the things I noticed about this is first, it's one of the items that will be sunsetting. That being said, my concern with this is that I think although the intent of what's been described here is worthy, the concern I have is that it's overly broad and could result in unintended consequences. And so for that reason, my vote on this item would be a no.
Would any board member care to contribute anything additional to that or offer their opinion about what Mr. Beiruti shared about the actual resolution itself?
I share the sentiment.
So agree with what you're saying that the resolution seems very broad, uses very sweeping terminology and generalizations. Additionally, several of the terms that are used are currently under legal consideration, while many of the others are already protected by the constitutions of the United States, New York, the Bill of Rights, and specific legislation such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964, among several others.
Any other comments from the board members at this time? So we can just take a consensus, same routine as normal.
Those in favor of this resolution, please put your hands up for support. Okay. Those who are not in support of it,
Okay, so it passes by consensus.
Okay. Will not be included. You'll vote no on this.
yeah.
I just want to be clear what that means.
Yep.
That's all.
Yeah, good.
Next number,
Next number is number 6.
number 6. Resolved that the New York State School Board Association supports legislation to eliminate the limit on BOCES district superintendent conversation.
So on this one,
This
My-
specifically deals with BOCES exclusively.
so my concern with this is that I don't think many school districts, including BOCES, are having difficulty hiring superintendents. I know that, for example, the Nassau BOCES superintendent had, I believe, resigned, and they were able to find a person within a reasonable amount of time to bring in on a new person. And so as a result of that, I don't think that this is really an item of concern, aside from the fact that it's also sunsetting. So that's the rationale behind it.
Any additional comments?
Didn't he pass away?
Oh, did he
That-
pass away?
Yeah, yes,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, sorry, I'm sorry, I got the facts wrong. So I appreciate it.
Dr.
Yeah,
Dr.
right.
Dillon did pass away suddenly. So this speaks specifically to that he would support legislation to eliminate the limit on BOCES. And I'll just ask you, I'll just enter a comment on this. So, if you look at, in general, where most of the superintendents come from BOCES, they usually come from upstate New York. They're migrating downstate in order to take these positions inside of these BOCES and RICs. And someone would say, why is that? Well, the reason being is that in terms of comparisons between BOCES superintendents and superintendents of public schools, is considerably less finance that's associated with that. So it only attracts people that are usually typically not from Long Island that are migrating down from upstate New York. I just wanted to provide that clarifying point. Obviously, the board has to make a decision about what they'd like to do with this resolution, support it or not. So I turn it back to the board president.
And I appreciate that context. It changes.
I wanted to say that because all of the superintendents, and by the way, there've been some fabulous BOCES superintendents throughout the years. I've been doing this for quite some time. But many times, the pool is very limited, and it's usually for people that are not familiar with our local culture of Nassau County. So, and the inhibiting factor has always been the disparity between the salaries.
So I mean, that was actually helpful context.
Yeah.
Where I would change my mind on it.
Okay.
Knowing this now.
Okay,
So-
but I want the board to know, what has been the experience over time. They can always find somebody to take a job.
Okay.
All right, but you want obviously people that are familiar with the landscape of Nassau County. They have a very large budget that they manage on an annual basis and is comparable, if not exceeds, many districts.
Right. Okay, well, with that being said, personally, I would change my vote. I don't know, so I would be in support of this. So that's my position. I don't know if there's others who would like to show whether they're in support as well.
We can do consensus.
Raise your
Those
hand.
people in favor of supporting this at this time, please raise your hand. Those-
Okay,
Those people that,
all right, so we're not disputing that
We're
one.
not gonna
6
dispute
out.
it yet, so we're gonna take that off the list.
Okay,
okay,
The next one is resolution number 10.
sorry, number again?
I'm sorry, 10.
Sorry. Item number 10 is resolved the New York State School Board Association supports hybrid electric buses as an alternative option to New York State 100% zero emission electric school bus fleet mandate by 2035.
So with this one, my concern is that obviously I'm not in favor of the electric school bus mandate because I think it's super costly. I don't think we have the infrastructure for it. I think the limitations of the technology is detrimental to many school districts on Long Island. And, that does not even account the greater hurdles that exist upstate New York with the greater distances they have to deal with, as well as how the colder temperatures upstate will negatively impact battery life. My understanding is that the cost of an electric school bus is about 400,000+. For a gas powered one, it's probably about 150 or something like
Yes,
that. 140.
approximately.
And then I would assume a hybrid somewhere in between, right? That would just be my guess. So with that being said, my concern is that whether it's a hybrid bus or an electric school bus, these are going to be unfunded mandates that will put a significant financial stress on individual school districts. And again, similar thing, I think the intent is great to try to move towards cleaner energy, but I think it would severely disadvantage the educational opportunities that we would be able to offer our students because now we're putting money towards something else.
Yeah, I think it also signals to Albany that it's gonna be a difficult mandate for all the districts to be able to meet. And this almost signals to the state like, okay, well, we could go halfway, and that's not even really, I'm not convinced of that either, so I'm not in favor of that either.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you both said. The end goal of the mandate, I think is admirable, but the technology hasn't caught up quite yet to where we want to go.
So those who would be in support of the resolution, if you could put your hands up. Okay. Those who are against it,
6-0.
Yep.
Next resolution number.
number 13.
Resolve the New York State School Board Association support legislation at the state level that would allow school districts whose pre-kindergarten programs are oversubscribed to show enrollment preference to students who are economically disadvantaged and are ELL learners until such time as the programs become truly universal.
So my concern with this is that, I know there's a lot of, debate around this even here in planning, but I do think that the lottery system, when you're limited in terms of the number of seats, is the fairest. I think the answer to this potentially could be that there should be a state mandate, to have universal pre-K and have it funded, fully funded. At that point, it would be a different resolution to consider. And I think that, obviously, the sooner we can get kids, our students into a formal learning environment with highly qualified educators, the better I think that their future outcomes would be. So I think the way this resolution is written, I'm not in favor of it.
Yeah, I could just add my thoughts on that. I don't like the idea that we're choosing seats based on things that, border on politics, border on things that the families can't control. Just because you're not at a poverty level doesn't mean you could afford pre-K. And I'd like to see every kid in pre-K. I don't see why we can't get it right in New York State, but whenever we start choosing how we're going to educate and who we're going to educate based on things outside of people's control, I wouldn't support that.
Any additional comments from the board?
So consensus on whether anyone supports the resolution as written. Well, I was doing support and then opposed. Okay, and those who oppose?
Thank you. Next number, please.
Number 15.
Resolve the New York State School Board shall advocate for the New York Swims Initiative to be extended and expanded to include additional enhanced and targeted state funding specifically dedicated to constructing pools in K-12 schools and for increased days for operating maintenance and staffing costs associated with these facilities. This enhanced funding should be built into the building aid formula to promote equitable and year-round access to swimming instruction for all students.
So, I mean, I think the rationale behind this is spot on in terms of we want to make sure that children throughout the state receive the ability to learn how to swim so that they're safer if they decide to enter the waters. However, I'm not sure if the state, like through the state education program, that's really the best way to do it. I think it's something that possibly should be allocated to towns and have municipalities focus on their funding towards something like this. And so, I think it's just one of those things where there's so much stuff put on a school already in terms of what they need to do to prepare students for the future. That although this is an admirable goal, that it should be something that I think is more town driven and possibly can include kids. I'm sorry, not kids, but people outside of the school system to also learn swim safety and how to swim. So it should be, a broader group in terms of who should have access to this and not the.
Long Island is, in my opinion, consistently treated unfairly in how school funds are allocated by Albany. If you notice, these are basically all upstate districts where you have, in some cases, countywide or at least townwide school districts. And it might make a little more sense for those upstate districts to fill a need in the community. For every school or every school district in Nassau County, I think there's over 70, right? How many? It's a little overkill. So I think it would actually hurt our funding here on Long Island if all of a sudden funds are allocated for pools in upstate. So I would not be in support.
Just as they're revisiting the foundation aid formula, currently, but we should see that the next budget cycle enrollment, in theory, April. They revisit the building aid formula from soup to nuts in general, so rather than adding things at this point to that, I believe that we should just revisit that formula fall cloth as well.
So those who are still in favor of this resolution? Mrs. Maggio? Those who oppose this resolution?
Okay, 5-1.
Opposed. Next number, please.
Number 24.
Resolved, the New York State School Board Association, that the New York State School Board Association advocates for the minimization of field testing and school district decision-making rights to refuse to participate in field testing without penalty from the New York State Education Department. That's, resolution
Yeah.
24.
I think field testing, this is quite a simple answer. I think field testing is important to ensure that children are receiving the right services. So that's just very simply how I viewed it. I don't know if anyone else has anything to expand.
Could you, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you, could you say that again?
So my understanding of this is that it relates to field testing, which to me means maximizing time. It says here, maximizing time dedicated to meaningful instruction and student engagement. So by reducing testing, they would be able to allocate more time towards those other goals. But sorry, go ahead.
The field testing is built in also to the testing period. So I'm, what do you disagree on? I'm sorry.
My concern was that by doing that,
By eliminating field testing.
right, you still need to, I think, have an adequate amount of field testing, relative to these other things, with respect to instruction and student engagement. So it's the balance between the two. And so I'm just trying to understand if we're advocating for that, the reason would be why. And I don't necessarily agree with the rationale. I think there's importance to both. So I don't understand why we would want to minimize field testing. Unless I'm missing something. And
I can speak to it if you'd like about what I'm doing.
I think we're talking
Yeah.
about turf when I was reading this 3 times today, so
Sorry.
I'd love a little understanding of what we're
That's
talking
understood
about.
it, but I understood it something else.
Randomly sends out and identifies school districts to do their work. Tests that are created not by teachers, that are created by a testing firm, typically. So we have not participated unless we look at the test and we believe that there was any benefit for our students. And that's what we do here at this point in time. And we have sent back numerous tests. There's only so many days of instruction that currently exist inside of our system. In order to organize and provide accommodations for all of these field testings, which are up and above, especially in a district where in excess of 50% of the people opt out of the test that they're looking to test for, which would be our 3 through 8th grade testing. It's another day of management that does not productively serve our needs here is a waste of instructional time, unless of course we feel that the test might be an indicator for us, such as they add an additional readings examination so we can take a look at it. Our staff would benefit by being able to understand what these new questioning techniques are that they're alleging are going to work. So that the credibility at this point in time has not been high for these tests that have come to us as far as validity. So I would just share with the board that that's currently what we are doing here today. And you know, we base it upon what the professional feedback is when we receive these tests. And that's what we currently do here in Plain Edge. This year basically is, so there's always the threat from the state education department or the federal government who sends out as well, that if you don't get this test, there'll be financial penalty to the district. And that has been alluded to by Commissioner of Education on a number of times, all commissioners of education, by the way, over the last 15 years. To date, I've never seen that happen in my life. This one here, they're looking to validate this by saying, we want this to be, to move forward. It's also important to know that none of these resolutions ever make it to the state level as far as being approved ever. I've only seen 1 or 2 in my career, through this actual here, but that's the organization's position. And remember, they're a lobby group as well, so they're constantly advocating for change in education. They do the best that they can. I hope that gives you a little more context about what we're doing here today. And obviously, the board can choose to discuss it and make a decision
I
ultimately.
mean, so just, sorry. go ahead.
Very poorly written resolution.
That-
You read it, you have to read it like 5 times to try
Right.
and
I
see.
still don't know.
Yeah,
Howard's
no, that's how,
district.
I read it as testing,
Yeah,
like I think Dr. Selena mentioned, but, and I know, if I'm understanding correct, since you elaborate a little bit further.
Yeah.
These are the tests that parents generally opt out of.
Well, first of all, they opt out of all of them, some of them, some parents, every family, makes a decision and has the right to share that. And they have to notify the school district. Obviously, it's not a kid discussion with the teacher, et cetera. But these tests are up and above any of the current testing that's in place. So in order for them to test out what a new version of a test might be, and to get the data to say these questions have validity or not, according to the people that are creating this, or these companies that create these examinations. Although they keep telling us that teachers have been restored back to the process, I'm still not convinced that that's actually happening to the degree it should be. If we're going to make examinations, it should be done by teachers for children that are familiar with the content areas. And to date, the number of these examinations, given the time commitment that's necessary in order to do these field tests, right? Because you're talking half the full day on these, I don't believe we do not participate unless it has some benefit to the children of Plainview.
Joe, if I'm understanding it, and I might not be, because I'm still not sure we're not talking about turf. I think anytime we can give more local decision-making to our district, that's a good thing. I worry about us getting away from testing, because it's on one hand, we could go on forever about that, but I think at this point, I still don't quite understand it, so I don't like voting for.
I think I can make it easier
Okay.
just for everybody. So we have a series of tests that are required by 3 through 8th grade testing, as well as any other test that we give, any readings examination, right, not AP exams, all right? And they will randomly select districts up and above the normal testing that we offer, which is, that is, we offer it to students that are willing to participate. There are over 50 to 65%, depending on the examination, that families continue to opt out of in this district currently today. This would be additional tests on top of that, which are, so they're not the standard examination. I'm going to be clear about this. These are up and above the series of tests that are currently being opted at, nearly at some as much as 65 to 70% by our families in 3 through 8th grade testing. Or it's taking instructional time from a secondary program where every day counts, and obviously we want to. I don't want to be a test bed for their tests, so I step back from that and I say, okay, what's in it for our children? And that's really what this is.
So this is not.
They're saying with that, but
These
the
are not
most
the
important
reading
part
and
is because they have threatened that there could be financial risk, right? To the district. All right, and I will let you know that to date, that has not been something that has been executed that I am aware of in any Nassau County or Suffolk County School District at this time.
So I'd be okay with letting this one go forward.
Yeah, I would,
Supporting it.
I missed that.
Sorry, I just want to provide context. I hope it's okay with the
appreciate that.
board,
I
just
appreciate
so
it.
you understand what we're looking at here.
Yes.
I appreciate the context. I have a hard time voting for a resolution that requires that much context. But I think it'd be.
I hope it's not a switcheroo when I'm on the call, but I would agree, let's take this.
So with
one off.
disregarding that one.
So everyone that supports this, could you please raise your hand?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Next number, please.
25.
Resolved that New York State School Board supports and upholds the mission of the conference of the Big Five school districts. If you're not familiar with the Big Five are the largest school districts in the state of New York. Include Yonkers, Albany, Buffalo, Mount Vernon, New York City, Rochester, Securus, and Utica. Promoting a more equitable and adequate funding system that delivery of high quality instruction to all children. Essentially, is misses the belief that all children can succeed, should be afforded appropriate support throughout their lives. NYSBA shall promote and advocate for fiscal programmatic priorities that are aligned with the mission. What this means is that they're looking for a bigger share of the pie in state aid. That's the translation for this, right? The Big Five, the largest school district in the state of New York.
Yeah, so I mean, that was a
Discussion
pretty
on this
easy
one.
one. I think Mr. Garcia touched upon it. I think it's unfair to Long Island school districts and, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I understand how the funding works in terms of like how the state necessarily allocates between big five school districts and all the other ones.
Well, Robert Megna said that there's about 10 people in the entire state who actually understand the state funding funds.
So that would be of a major concern to me, and I think if the big five school districts need additional funding, I would assume that they should probably look to their own tax base for that. So that's my point of view on this, and so I would be in opposition to this resolution.
Any additional comments from board members? All people that do not want to approve this, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. Next number.
That sounds a little misleading, like approving. We're not approving anything with this. We're just allowing it to be talked about at NYSBA.
We're
like,
actually
that's
voting, the
we're-
district has an opportunity to vote on behalf of the board and endorse or not endorse. And what they do is they actually have a physical vote. They'll say all districts in favor of this, all against, and then they take a tally, and then depending on the outcome of those numbers, they will move it forward so that they advocate for it at the state level.
Right.
Right, we had said that Joe would represent us as the delegate, we're just giving our direction to Joe.
Right. Yeah, but sometimes when you say approve, it sounds like something's really gonna happen.
No,
And
lobbying.
so I just wanted to be known that word is very powerful, right? Like, we're not doing that.
No, we're
I
not.
go back
We're
to.
not opening our fingers and hoping it works.
I go back to with these resolutions here, there have not been any that have moved
Right.
to action to date that I am aware of in my 15 years of going to these conferences.
Part of why that could.
One made it to committee. Oh, committee, and then it was killed.
Right.
Next number, please.
26.
26, resolve the New York State School Board supports legislation to eliminate Regents exam testing at the high school level in favor of state final exams that comply with ESSA. Every Student Succeeds Act regulations in 10th to 11th grade for ELA, math, and science.
I think the state education department is still presenting their plan to the Board of Regents, I think in November, if I'm not mistaken. They had the Blue Ribbon Commission, they've had listening tours around the state, they had 5 public forums. I don't want to get too far ahead of our skis with this, and I'd like to see what they actually present. I know the preliminary proposal included the regents as one of several different ways to demonstrate proficiency, and I think it's calling for the elimination of regents exams altogether, probably an extreme step. But again, I don't want to get too far out of our skis with this.
Yeah, so I mean, I understand, I'm trying to think of how Regents exams used to be viewed when I was a student versus now. I understand there's been a lot of changes in regards to that. I think Mike kind of touched upon it, but.
I think it's interesting, there's one district submitted it.
Right.
To have one little district deciding how the state should handle it, that's a conversation that's got.
Yeah.
Comment on this. What they're saying here is they still want the state to be in control of the final examinations.
Right.
I
So what's the
advocate for the
point?
teachers who are following in accordance with the New York State learning standards. All right, the curriculum that is defined by the state, all right, to create the examinations and be sure that the questions are valid. And that they map into the curriculum that's being taught in accordance with and in compliance with the New York State learning standards. I don't want the state, and as your superintendent, I don't recommend that the state create any test for us. That's going to be one of the options you're going to hear about coming out in the near future. Inside of this plan for the state is what my hope would be. Like I said before, this still gives the state control over examinations, and it's just going to be a different name. They're going to call it a final exam instead of a New York State Regents. All right, so that's the
I
difference.
don't know,
between
I mind state exams, but this just seems like, what are we doing? It's kind of pointless. It doesn't change anything. So I think we don't support that one and we keep going.
Other comments by anyone? If anyone doesn't understand, we should continue the discussion to understand it.
I mean, I maybe I'm a little lost on this, but I thought Regents exams when they were designed with teachers who would design the questions. So why, having a kind of, I don't want to say universal standard, but kind of a certain standard protocol that kind of objectively measures each student's understanding, isn't that what
I
we
think it-
want? Like, I understand that like teachers will focus on certain areas or certain topics in class more than others, and they're trying to impart a wide degree of knowledge, right? And so the Regents exam, I think, is because of what would be covered by the Regents exam. I think teachers by default would have to try to cover all those topics to make sure that their students are prepared to take the exam and whatever question might come up. So that's where I'm kind of.
I think
lost
though-
because I feel like
The number one topic when the exam gets cracked open and put in front of a child is we didn't know this was gonna be here, or we did know this was gonna be here, all right? And listen, standardized testing has been around since the dawn of time. All right, Regents examinations in general don't exist in states at this point in time. There is a movement in society to move to local control of schools, all right, as far as, you know, products, how we're providing instruction, and the local control comes back to the professionals, the educators that are inside the buildings, and the verification. So I understand on the one hand why people tell us they believe that these are, you know, valid examinations. It is a bar that compares everyone at the same, with the same examination. May not have been the same topics that have been taught, because remember, there is latitude inside of the learning standards where, you know, you could spend more time or less time on specific topics inside of the secondary curriculum. So this still keeps, the drive for this is that they're advocating for that the state still give Regents examinations, which they'll now rename to be state final exams. And so that's what this one school district is advocating for, and they submitted this at this point in time. I still think it's too early to tell, and we really need to be taking a look at what this new plan or the options are that the state's gonna be recommending that be implemented statewide.
At the end of the day, we're all in consensus on no.
So the question is, do we support it as written, or do we not? And the board needs to come to consensus.
No, I think I'm gonna oppose that.
All people that are opposed,
In favor of opposing it?
please raise your hand if you're opposed.
It's a double thing.
I look
Yeah,
for-
it is, this is what tripped me
Okay.
up last year when I was
Got it.
going through these.
Ms. Maggio, did you
I,
want to
s-
comment?
I would like to see, we are the only state who has a Regents exam. I'd like to see, I'd like to see it gone. So I support that in that way. And whether you want to, if you want to have a standardized test as a state, that's a different thing.
Well, as
So,
written, they
I
will
support
provide the final exam. You're supporting it, okay. Any other comments?
but they're also giving it to the state, so that this is
That's why-
a step.
So I think that.
So I still support that as a step.
We're good. There's consensus that it will not be supported at this.
That's quite fine.
Yes,
I'm okay with.
I just want to make sure we're
consensus.
talking about the same thing. Next
I'm just
number.
saying.
All right,
Thank
so on this one, Dr. Selena, I just.
I went to college outside of New York, so
Yeah.
I'll tell you what Regents do.
So this one's a funny one in the sense that,
Number,
number 30, sorry.
sorry.
So before you read it,
Yes.
I just wanted to jump in on this. So for some reason, Plainage School Board was signed on to this, but we never signed up onto it or discussed it. So I think this is a clerical error by NYSBA. I don't even know why, this is not something I think we.
We go back to the minutes, I agree, we did not, we did not support this one. We didn't put this-
Yeah, it wasn't discussed
Didn't
as something
discuss.
that we wanted to sign on to.
Sure.
So it's.
So absent Plained School Boards being wrongly named as being a sponsor of this question, of this resolution 30. Resolved that the New York State School Board shall advocate for local control of education administration to the county executive school board when appropriate. All right, and our district did not support that at this time. So the floor is open.
I don't think we should ever give our control to any elected official.
I also just think that it's really far too broad and there's no practical discussion of how that actually works. And I'm hesitant to sign on to anything that just throws around such broad terms.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
An example might be the New York City Public Schools.
Right.
Right.
Where I
Exactly
worked for 6 years.
We're good.
All people that do not support this resolution, please raise your hands. Next number,
35.
35. Resolved that the New York State School Board Association supports legislation to grant judges the ability to acquire bail in cases of violent threats against school districts and or staff and or students at school districts. So what they want is, they want the judges to require bail, all right, if in all cases of violent threats against the schools. I'll just keep it general like that.
So I think, you know, mandating anything having judges mandated to do anything, I think is pulling power away from judges and their discretion. So, sorry, were you gonna say something, Joe?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know when this came up once before with the Plainville School Board, why are we telling New York State how to handle bail? Like, I just think it's a political issue and we just need to just stay out of it and let New York State figure that out.
Yeah, I mean,
The law
again,
governs
I'm
on this
not a
at this
lawyer.
time.
I think we shouldn't be dictating law at the school level of this sort. This seems more like best suited for,
I also
people involved in the criminal justice system to.
I also think it changed a little bit along the way and it specifically talked about maybe schools, but still, I just let the state figure out how to do criminal justice.
Require judges to have a certain level of education and experience, why would we with mandates?
All people opposed to supporting this, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Next number, please.
36.
36, resolved that the New York State School Board shall work to develop state law that requires school boards conduct at least 3 member trainings during the school year on topics determined by the board and other relevant stakeholders. So they're looking to put guidelines in that would govern school boards in the state of New York.
Yeah, I'm just generally opposed to that. I think there is a mandate anyway for certain level of training. There is for school board members, and that seems to be adequate enough. And if you're a school board member, I think you should have the desire to better yourself on your own without being mandated.
The minute you add mandated training, they start telling you what the training's gonna be, and it might not be even applicable to your district, so I agree with you.
So all those in favor of opposing this one?
All people that are opposed to supporting this, raise your hands, please. Thank you. Next number.
That was it.
Okay, we'll send you a record of this for your use when you attend this as the delegate, and that will come to you by Monday.
No.
No? Sorry, it'll come to you shortly.
Oh, yeah.
Prior to this meeting.
Okay, moving on to section 5.
No.
We're gonna do number 2, electric bus transition plan. We're gonna have a discussion with the board tonight. All districts have been mandated by the state of New York to basically perform a feasibility study. So, we're not qualified to do that, but you're required to do it regardless. It is a mandate from the state. So, we need to look to people that actually do this. So we're going to have, Mr. Perazzo, who has been working on this and looking at options. And also, this grant available in order to offset the cost to the district in order to do this. It will produce the information that's required that the state will be asking us for at some point in time in the near future. But I'll let Peter speak about it, since he's the person.
Not much left to say.
All right.
Okay, so I think as you alluded before, this is probably the largest unfunded mandate in the last 3 decades that the state has put on school districts. They're requiring them to replace all their existing buses by 2035. So all of your internal combustion engines, whether the diesel, gas, or propane, will be off the road by 2035, and beginning in 2027, you can no longer purchase internal combustion engine buses. You need to start purchasing electric buses. That's where it stands right now. Conventional buses that we purchase right now go for between about $75,000 for the smaller buses and $150,000 for the larger buses, big model buses. Smaller buses are about $260,000 a piece. The larger buses are $400,000 to $450,000 a piece. In our world, we have about 20 large buses and 22 small buses. That's close to $14 million worth of buses over 8 years that we would have to purchase. That doesn't include the charges, level 3 charges, which are about $80,000 a piece. So that's another $3.5 million on top of that. We also have to consider utility that's available in the area, whether PSE&G can supply the power to us, or whether we need transformers, whether they need to run new lines from the substation because of the power demand. There are currently credits and incentives out there, but they're saying that they probably only cover about 10% of the cost of this transition. They're saying the electric bus mandate will cost about $9 billion alone in New York State. Tremendous amount of money. This came about, I guess, what they were thinking. New York State was trying to transition to clean energy. They've fallen way behind on that. They thought by 2040, I believe it was, that they'd be 20% green energy or renewable energy. And the thought was, well, we'll have that renewable or green energy, and we'll have the buses, and everything will be great. They also projected that the price of these buses, as the market developed and battery technology matured, that the price would be comparable with existing bus prices. That hasn't happened. Nowhere near being anywhere close, 2 to 3 times the cost of your traditional buses at this point in time. There's this entity in New York State called NYSBA. It's the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. They're charged with assisting districts to transition to this electric bus mandate. And through NYSBA, one of their vendors is Wendell Engineering, who we contacted. Wendell Engineering has a presence on Long Island and New York State. They perform these transition plan studies. They help you see what grants are out there and what's available. They work with the local power company to see what needs to be done. And they put together a comprehensive transition plan for your electric bus fleet. The cost of this study, because of we're not considered a needy district, NYSBA will pick up 75% of the cost of the study. I believe the study was about $48,000. Our portion of it is $12,000. Wendell Engineering will bill NYSBA for the balance. We don't have to lay out anything other than the $12,000. I agree with you. I hope this doesn't come to being. In the beginning, they did consider the option of hybrid, and they put it aside, thinking that they want to go 100% green. It certainly would have been a better alternative, I think. I do agree with you sending the wrong message to the state. I mean, the green energy lobbying group is a very influential group up in Albany. I think that the governor is very hesitant to go against them at this point in time. 2027 is right around the corner. I think we should have a roadmap to where we're going with this whole project. And it's a minimal investment if it lays out what we need to do. And obviously we can adjust it as the state adjusts their timeline.
Mr. President, it seems like we basically have to do the study, and 3/4 of the cost is going to get picked up anyway.
Correct.
I don't think there's really much of a choice. I mean, hopefully, they understand the pressure they're putting on school districts. I mean, I've spoken to board members in other districts, and they've said that they've seen substantial price increases in terms of their outsource transportation costs, because those busing companies have to price in this potential rollout. So obviously we're unique in the sense that we have our own fleet, and I think that provides a lot of great benefits. So even the idea of possibly going somewhere else is going to necessarily benefit Plain Edge if we were to eliminate the bus fleet. So it's kind of like we're stuck, and the hope is that really the state realizes the negative impact that this is going to have. And then in terms of utility and bringing utilities, let's say, to the back of the high school, is that a cost borne by PSEG or like the school district now has to?
I
pay
believe
to
that there
bring
are
that
grants
engineer?
available for that, but I don't think PSE&G is willing to run.
They usually do X amount of feet onto the premises, depending on what type of wiring it is. But the truth of the matter is, it's in the back corner of the parking lot, but we don't even know if this is be supported.
You don't even know if the
We don't know if it's got grid.
substation can provide
Right.
the power that's required.
I think, I wouldn't mind having a letter to vote on next meeting to oppose it. I don't think we've ever done that as a district on the electric bus mandate, but as far as this is, we don't have much of a choice. So we gotta at least do the study, even though nobody wants to see it happen. And the study's gonna say some version of, oh boy, you're in trouble.
Right. I mean, is that something that we've done? I mean, I don't know if prior boards have sent a letter to the state.
We've sent letters to the state before. It doesn't require a vote. Obviously, I would look, for consensus for the board, and we would prepare something if the board did so choose. Or the board could prepare it independent.
The other good thing that could come out of this is that companies like Wendell are supposed to report back to NYSBA the roadblocks to implementation that districts are experiencing. So if they say, "Gee, there's not enough power in the area and, it's not feasible." New York, upstate New York districts are certainly going to have trouble with this. You saw there's 4 major brands of buses. I think the highest one had like 133-mile range. You mentioned before that the battery charging capacity diminishes greatly in the cold weather. I think there was, what was it, Chicago, where the cars didn't charge.
Yeah, it was a Tesla. They
Right,
were having
no,
problems.
they couldn't charge. So they service a much larger geographic area, the upstate district, so I don't even know if this is, workable for them.
I guess if it does make sense to possibly draft a letter, to just reiterate our displeasure, but it seems like the study makes sense because, again, it'll help support our position that this is really not feasible at this time. So I would be.
You may want to wait for the results of the study and then base it off of that. In the sense of, because then you'll have data based that you could actually write a letter that has substance
Right.
about all the roadblocks that have been introduced. So that may be something for the board to consider,
Yeah.
but the board could still choose to do it.
I think that's an excellent suggestion.
We read-
I think moving forward with the study makes sense as well.
Are we ready for a motion to commission?
Yeah, unless anyone else has any comments.
I just think this is horrible for taxpayers. This puts us in a bind. A lot of money we'd have to outlay in the next coming decade for new buses. And I think we should try to fight it as much as we can with letters telling our elected representatives we're not for this. Gonna put a high cost on our budget. And that bill goes to the taxpayers. So I think if we get a letter out earlier, we can always send a letter out next year with the data, but let it be known that we are not for this. I think it's probably good to settle that and, tell our electeds we're not in favor of this. We have we're very unique, we have our own bus fleet, so we're gonna have to replace everything in the next 12, 13 years. This puts, I don't know what the number was, 12 million or 12 million, 13 million, but it's 14 million. It's a big burden to put on our residents. So I think if we get the letter out earlier, we can always send a second letter saying, this is what we found. And, put the difficulties in that letter.
Okay, at this point in time, what I would ask the board to just come to consensus of supporting this and that we will move forward and give them a letter of authorization to move forward with the study for the
I'm in
year.
favor of that.
All people in favor of moving forward and doing the study, please raise your hands. All people opposed? Thank you, 5-1, motion passed.
Back to Selena's, when we did the football field, if you remember, PSNG almost couldn't provide us enough electricity to run the scoreboard in the field. They said there was not enough in this area. They scrambled and got something there, but I don't think they're gonna be able to support anything like this in this area.
I do think that it would be important to have an outside resource to be able to help support us gather the data that we just don't have the capabilities of doing at this point in time to answer the state's, feasibility request from us, because, we're not engineers, we're not any of those things. So I think that this might be something that's good for the district.
And I think the other important part of this is that they help identify funding opportunities to cover the costs if they're available.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry for stealing your thunder, Peter.
I did that already. I'll have to hear about it tomorrow.
Moving on to section 5, business. Do I have a motion to approve items 1 through 35? Mr. Paris, second. Mrs. Maggio, all in favor?
In favor, motion carried.
All right. Moving on to section 6, pride and plannage. Anyone want to share some good things they've done? Received? Oh, sorry, Mrs. Maggio.
Just want to thank our administrative and teaching staff once again for getting our buildings up and running and ready for back to school night within the first week. I think I say it every year, but I do find that amazing considering, I mean, I haven't even had my back to school night, and the way our teachers and our administrators just get out there and are ready to have us. And the buildings always look so great. The kids' work is showing, and I just think it's amazing because it's a very, hard time of year. Teachers are getting to know kids, and yet they're getting everything they need to done. So thank you for the time it takes to do that, the teachers and administration. And that's it for me. This
Perfect, Mr. Morris.
My third kid, I was finally able to attend still in the kindergarten. I compliment Mr. Mazzano and the kindergarten teachers and staff out west on that program. And also the welcome back event at Brian Moore was also tremendous. The turnout was wonderful. Food trucks were great. So, back on Mrs. Maggio, it was a great start to the school year.
Anyone else?
I got to see my 4-year-old daughter perform on the high school field for the first time, so it was now full circle. She got to participate in a cheerleading fundraiser, and part of that was performing at the high school halftime show, so that was fun. The varsity scored quite a number of points that night, and it was a lot of fun. Friday Night Lights is no joke here in Plainage. A lot of great stuff. There's too much to list. I mean, it's been great.
Sorry, Doug.
I was able to attend, we had a facilities walkthrough at the Board of Education, so I was happy to see all the schools bright and shiny after being cleaned all summer, and fresh coat of paint on a lot of walls and stairwells, and it just looked really good. So it was a nice to see how everything was tended to over the summer. So that was a pleasure.
I think if I could just add to Doug's comments, one of the challenges with having schools in a modern world is the community doesn't really get to see all the schools, and even when you have kids in the district, you don't see all the buildings. So if anybody's wondering, they're all looking really, really great behind closed doors.
I would agree with that. The walkthrough was great. I actually missed it last year because I had a conflict. I think one of the more interesting things is hearing about how we have students in the district working in the schools to prepare them. And I think that's fabulous because obviously it's teaching them about work ethic. They're making a little bit of money, so they don't have to constantly hit up mom and dad for something. So that's nice that they learn some skills in terms of maintenance and what it really takes to ensure that the buildings are in nice order and looking great for everyone. The other thing I want to say is that Superintendent's Day went off really well. You could feel the excitement in the auditorium, especially from the new teachers. I thought it was interesting when we had cohorts in five-year increments raise their hand in terms of how long they've been here, and you could see that the 0 to 5 and the over 20, I think it was over 20, or maybe it was over 25, but over 20, those were the two largest cohorts. And so it's just a nice blending. I mean, obviously, I think the benefit of that is that you have people with a lot of experience being able to train up the younger generation of teachers coming through Plainedge and help them understand our standards and what we're about and what's important to this community. So I think that's a wonderful thing, and that was a wonderful demonstration. I appreciate that. And then, yeah, the high school football event is always electrifying. The first game of this year was a great game. I was unfortunately unable to see till the end because of conflict, but, that's a great thing, and I'm hoping to attend other sporting events this fall.
That calendar is online for everyone. If you're not knowledgeable, in the upper right-hand corner, the athletic schedule as well as the district calendar on our district website, and it changes daily.
All right, moving on to, item number 7, new business. So I think this was brought up by Mr. Parrish, the process that board trustees will use for contacting district council for the 2024-2025 school year. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Parrish.
So I think this is just a housekeeping, maybe that we should be aware of. I just want to be sure that all board members receive proper communications when somebody contacts Ingham and Smith for opinion letter, counseling. I would suggest, we did this in the past, that all communications go through you, President of the Board of Education. This way you can funnel it, and then it comes back to us with some sort of communication from either yourself or from Ingham and Smith that we're using now. I would suggest that the superintendent be on those calls, as he's familiar with probably everything that goes on in the district. This way, everyone has the same information from the lawyers, so that if we go into a meeting, we all are on the same page.
Yeah.
Pretty simple procedure.
I would agree with that. I think, so I actually asked Neil that question about what is proper protocol, because I did reach out to him about something, and I just want to make sure I don't go out of bounds in terms of what I'm doing, and also be respectful to everyone else. And so just to advise the board in terms of what Neil had told me, it's effectively what you said, Mr. Parrish. I think the one thing I would say is that he did mention that all board members should feel comfortable to contact him. Obviously, we're also letting the superintendent know. But if, let's say, Mr. Garcia, who's not the board president, reaches out to Ingerman, that he would be required to report to the board what was discussed during that conversation. So I agree. I think that's best practice, but maybe sometimes people feel like they need to have that direct connection. I don't want to. I'm not someone who wants to limit people's ability to ask questions if they have legitimate concerns that maybe they want to get advice first. But I would agree. I think possibly that it's best to funnel through the board president, but in very, very limited circumstances, if they feel strongly about having to reach out directly. I don't want to say no to that. But again, the point is that the board will eventually find out about it.
So one of the things that lawyers do, if I could just make a comment, is they can send out a summary of the meeting, so that maybe it's help you in order for you to get it back. So that's something that you could do also. That way, you put the responsibility for communicating whatever's been discussed to the lawyers.
Okay,
They
so
keep
having-
records of it anyway.
Having like.
Yeah, Now, I'm not saying it's gotta be a transcript,
You
but
would send it to you, and then you could,
you could send it,
out
you
to
just
the-
put it to the board, or, I think that would be the easiest.
Yeah, I'm fine, or through the district clerk, and then it gets disseminated. But
That's fine.
yeah, as long as that information's flowing back, I don't have any issue with that. I'm sorry, Mrs. Manager.
No, I just want to say it was a very uncomfortable position the past few weeks because I didn't get anything. And this has always been where information is flowing, but I didn't get any information. And then I was very curious, other than from the attorney. And I was just really like, we've always gotten information. So it was interesting to me that you knew. I thought maybe you didn't even know that you spoke to Ingerman, and he said that they said you should give us the information. So I look forward to that in the future, because I felt very separated, not really together, which is not a place I like to feel.
So I want to apologize for that. I thought that Neil took care of that with memos. I don't want to get into the details of things, because obviously.
The board can request that this be the practice, that's all.
Yeah. And
Every board handles it slightly differently, but it would take the onus of responsibility
Yeah.
for the context to put that on the lawyers. And that way they would be able to do, as you said, share that information back to the board.
Right, which I think he did, but if there's any.
He does not communicate except through the actual letter itself,
The letter.
which is fine, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
it was in the opening statement for the opinion. Just talk about.
Moving on to item number 8, old business. So this is proposed Board of Education agenda attachments for the public effective November 2024. And what this is that we had ask Dr. Selena to, see if there's any attachments or more information that we can provide to the public as just part of our normal process, where in the past, when we would send out the agenda, sometimes certain attachments, that could be public were not included. And I think one of the drivers for that was that I know some other school districts were doing it. And, Dr. Selena graciously went to other school districts to see what they were doing and, kind of form a study or a check in terms of, what other districts are doing, and then offer the Board of Education a proposal in terms of what we thought was appropriate for Plainridge. So at this point, I think it's appropriate to turn over to Dr. Selena.
So first of all, credit goes to obviously the front office, specifically Ms. Ryan, our district clerk. She did a frequency study, visited every single board website, looked at every single attachment that's available to the public inside of that's released with it. And the results are presented for the board's consideration tonight. And my recommendations are as well.
Please, Mr. Garcia.
I think it's very, there's a lot here. That was a lot of work. Thank you. I think it's great. I think you could sit here and probably talk for hours about one or two items that I don't think makes a whole lot of difference. I think the gist of this is taxpayers, residents, parents now have access to information they didn't before. I always think that's a good thing, but it's in a secure, well thought out way. It's not just willy-nilly. Some districts, as we found when we looked last year, we're putting a lot of weird stuff out there and making some mistakes because of it. But I think this is great, and I look forward to getting this played.
I think it's also important to also notice, take a look at the percentages and the types of documents that are out there. Very limited information is distributed by other school districts, so we'll be a leader in this area as far as sharing information that we feel is typically, I look for a net overage of 50% of, before I start signing up to do things. But as we sat down and reflected upon the documents and looked what's in these documents specifically, and looked at what other districts were posting, the recommendation stands as written.
Does anyone have any questions or discussion points?
I think it looks really good. A lot of work was done. Thank you.
Yeah. Otherwise,
Thank you, Maureen.
appreciate it.
Sorry. I give credit where it's due.
That's very thorough, and I definitely appreciate it.
Planting this plan, are we gonna have the most boxes checked off here? or almost all?
Guarantee.
Yeah, we are actually.
Guaranteed.
So.
Do we need a motion to implement this? Is that how this works?
Just need a consensus, that's all.
Is it in old business?
I'm sorry?
It's in old business. Isn't it?
Yes, in old
Yeah.
business. Yes, it's already there. But, I just need consensus, which will provide direction to the superintendent. I don't think it requires any type of physical vote.
Okay.
All right.
I mean,
I'm in favor.
I would be in favor of it.
All those people in favor of posting these documents and make them available, please raise your hands.
Okay, thank you, Maureen.
You'll see these appear in
You're welcome.
November as detailed.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
The next subject matter, it has to do with a Board of Education Advisory Committee relating to armed security guards, and similar to a prior meeting request by the Board of Ed for Dr. Selena's team to kind of go out and come back with recommendations as to how we approach this topic and debate it. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Selena.
Definitely. So first of all, much thanks to Dr. Di Paola, who worked with the Nassau County Police Department as well as the Farmingdale Public Schools. They had recently gone through a similar process, and we basically copied what they did. So credit to Paul Defendini. We did tweak it out to customize it to our but the tenets of all the pieces that are inside of this were what Farmingdale used. I reviewed that process. Paul was very good in giving us the person that really organized it and ran it. So as written, I believe this is something that would meet the needs that the board requested that we come back to with the recommendation. This is my recommendation at this point in time. Obviously, it's a future discussion, and the timeliness of it would be important for budget purposes for the following school year. Because if this were to be something that the committee would recommend, the board would need to know what the cost implications would be during budget season. So you would see this come in no later than March of 2025, the results. These are the broad strokes, but there's a lot of meat on the bones inside of this recommendation and proposal. And then the committee would come and they would do a presentation to the Board of Education and make their recommendations. They are advisory in sense only, but you'll have full participation. It also has a thought exchange. So thought exchange is one of the hottest products that are out there today, which is basically a public commentary forum where anyone in the public can comment on any of the questions themselves. So this allows for full access for people to participate in the process in this community. And as detailed at this point in time, there is a sample survey which we took from Farmingdale at this point in time and supplemented. That's basically a draft that the committee itself would review and decide, are there other things out there we want to know? And it could be supplemented, or they could take things out if they didn't believe they were appropriate for the plan, for Plan-Edge at this point. And as you can see, it has a large involvement of people that would be most appropriate, and it's randomized people, anyone can apply. We use a lottery system, we're moving to a computerized lottery solution at this point in time. So that anyone that would like to participate, and they identify with one of the groups that are identified inside it here, except for those that are, basically bound by contractual obligations that I have, where they're recommended by unions, et cetera. Everybody else would be put into the lottery, and the lottery will be broadcast.
I have a couple questions if it's time for that. So, I read through it in detail. I spoke to Farmingdale's mirrors much of what they did, which is great. On the members of the law enforcement community, 3 of them as committee members, are they parents and or residents in the district?
Can't be both, one or the other. What are you gonna represent? So Dr. DiPaolo can speak to it and why.
So when I researched it, basically, they didn't want, let's say if there's only 3 parents to be chosen, they don't want all the 3 parents to be law enforcement.
Right.
And then you pick law enforcement. So the parents in the parent pool would be parents that are
That aren't
not in law enforcement.
That part I understood, but the
Law enforcement, the other one would be the community members who are
community members
in-
are a law, so there's really 6 community members on the committee, 3 of whom aren't in law enforcement and 3 are.
Yes. that's
Because
correct.
they said then the odds of getting parents, especially, in the areas that we live in, you would have a high probability of getting all parents in law enforcement and then another 3 in law enforcement, and they wanted.
Right, no, that makes sense. I just wanted, so when I was looking at it, not knowing which group that was choosing from, it felt very district heavy and less community heavy. I wouldn't mind seeing another parent guardian group in there, or maybe even one resident who's not like a retiree, because obviously there's financial implications. I wouldn't mind having one that's specifically not a parent in the district, that's just a resident. Is that something we could add to get?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
So I
Say it
didn't- I
again
didn't
one more
make it clear.
time, please.
We always hear about how many people in the district don't have kids at Plain-Edge. Can we get one of those people specifically? Because it says parents and guardians, we get 3 of them. Could we add one community member who's not a parent of the
I'm not
district?
sure how I would identify that. I'm just trying to think about how I do that randomly.
Maybe the kids
Based upon
graduated
age,
already.
I'm not sure if we should differentiate, but
They-
that's,
In the research I did that, none of the districts that I had spoken to had included that. But something, they
I
did.
don't know if it'd be a different bucket where if you're, I mean, are you even allowed to say somebody over 62?
I know.
Community members, not
No.
students.
That's not okay.
I'm
I can check again, but I'm gonna tell you, no one. Now, what I know for sure.
Okay.
I think that leave it to choice of random, and by the way, remember, it's random, so anybody can apply for it, so I think that you're keeping that, if you want to add one more parent, to increase the chances of that being another person, but not a profile.
So my suggestion, obviously the board's gonna decide this, but would be to make that 4 parent guardian residents, so that people who don't have kids in the district also feel welcome to try to participate in the committee. But maybe.
Say it again.
Um.
So we have one representing Oh, first of all, the idea was one for elementary, middle, high school, but you can't guarantee that, but Gary, I'm
Right.
listening.
I guess if we just make that 4 parents, maybe
Okay.
we have a better chance of grabbing more of a representation of the overall community.
Or I guess.
Or residents.
4 residents, I'm sorry,
Or
4
residents,
residents.
yes.
Or I guess that's right.
Remember, there's also the randomization where they could all not have kids in the schools. But we
That
were
would bother
looking,
me just as
so
much.
that's not actually true. So let me
Okay.
get clarification with Dr. DiPaola.
I guess,
Could you just tell you how the process is gonna work,
So-
because she's worked on this
Thank
with
you.
Farmingdale.
So in Farmingdale, they did not include people outside of the school community. Even in their thought exchange, it was just open to the staff, the faculty, and the parents and guardians of people in the school community. I could further research and
I could live with
Yeah,
that.
I understand Mr. Garcia's point as to like why that's valid, because they're taxpayers and they're paying for the security and obviously the increased cost, so, you know, should they have a voice?
Could
I
we,
guess the argument could be yes.
How would they learn how would they learn if it's really what the question is?
how many people signed up for the parents course?
Right.
Not that many.
38.
Yeah, all
So
right.
that's not gonna help you
Not
out,
bad.
that number.
I think we gotta keep in mind, these are like, this is parent geared. The parents were asking for the, I mean, people who don't have children in the district, I don't know if they're, I mean, I'm sure they see the world around them and aren't so proud of where we are today
I
in
think
our world.
one other
But-
comment that I'll add to supplement that is that this is about people that have in the
Yeah.
school, children in the schools right now. And the introduction potentially of armed security for schools with children that would be protecting staff and students.
So one of the things we had discussed is about the thought exchange, because the committee is specific on having 6 meetings and researching and doing the proposal that you all would vote upon. What you could do is with the thought exchange, and we had discussed this about potentially then posting it on our website, and community members who do not have children would be able to post their thoughts and their comments and be able to rate those thoughts on there. So they will still have input, and then the committee is actually going to take those thoughts and, you know,
Turn it into something.
and turn the data around and see what they feel. So that's how they can have a voice.
I think this is great work that was done. I always hate having input after someone did all the hard work, because it's like,
No, but
Just there,
we have to discuss it.
I wouldn't mind just making it a 4th parent then, just to
So
try
be
to
it.
help balance.
That's easy to do.
Yeah.
All support of it.
I only had some questions that, as I thought about this more. Is this subject to open meetings law, or that, like, are we going to have it where the public can sit in to these meetings and just
Board
observe?
policy that the board can establish committees. So.
Sorry, so what does that mean? I'm not following.
So that means that you can define membership in any committees and formulate them, obviously, and this here is defined who those people would be.
I think that,
It's not a board meeting, so open meetings law does not fall under.
gotcha.
Okay, but I guess,
And that's why you only put 2 board members on the committee, just gonna say.
No, there's
No,
no board
there are
members
no
on
board
this.
members on this.
Since the board will be voting
No,
for this,
because you
yeah.
can't, you have to vote for
Okay.
it.
we're not on it, but I guess the question I was trying to say is, when the meetings are held, can people just sit in the audience and listen in or observe, or is that like frowned upon?
no.
You can't, not on a, not.
Basically, it's supposed to be, a safe environment, basically for people to have a discussion that we're given a charge by the Board of Education. I don't recommend you do that. Is it any prohibiting us? I don't think it's any law that prohibits us, but I don't know if you're gonna get the product out of it you want with these committees. All right?
Okay, the other question I would have is, in the corporate world, and I understand this is the education problem, but generally, sometimes you'll have, board seats where they're voting rights, who are shareholders, and then you'll have, board observers, as I'll call it, who are just there to observe what's happening in a meeting. Personally, I think it would be great if people from the board wanted to sit in and listen to the meeting, but not have any, ability to action or, be able to influence it. And the reason why I would say
Your
that
physical
is,
presence in the room may influence it, and that's why I don't recommend that you do it. All right, because they're coming to you with recommendations after they hash it out.
Right.
All
You
right, so
would
that's
do that.
why, and you're gonna vote on it.
And you would have information that the other.
board members don't
wouldn't have.
oh no, I would open it to any board member if they wanted to. That I wasn't trying to suggest, we just elect 2 board members to just sit in and listen. I'm not looking to
Yeah,
intimidate anyone by sitting in, so.
Your
I mean, I
physical
get-
presence alone and your positions of elected officials will have a negative influence potentially on the process. I don't recommend you do it.
Ultimately, we get final say, right?
Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah, no,
decide,
I-
they're gonna
I-
come to you with it, and they're gonna present it to all board members at that time. You're gonna invite them back again if you have additional questions.
Yeah, I mean, and I totally respect what everyone's saying. I thought it might be helpful to hear the deliberation, but I'm fine with that not being the case either. So at this point, I guess, did anyone, oh, sorry.
I'm okay.
Mr. Pascarello,
Mr. Garcia brought up adding an extra parent. I'm okay with that. So, a fourth.
we have consensus on adding another parent?
Yeah, can I just ask Lisa, my apologies. How are we gonna make sure we have cross-district representation with the parents and not three?
So what we could do is, on the survey, when you ask for interest, we will actually have the parents put where they have children in elementary, middle, or high school. And then we could separate the buckets in that way, and pick across.
So we want a representative from elementary, well, there'll be
It
more
was
than
called
just
out in the
one.
document. Maybe I'm imagining.
We might have just
Okay.
discussed it that when, we were going over,
Board agenda prep.
the agenda prep, we might have just.
I think
talked
that's a good
about-
idea though, to try to ensure you have representation, because the questions and issues that the high school face is certainly very different than an elementary. So
But
So
that
they'll have
was
to
the-
identify, that's part of the requirement.
I just did have one question for Dr. Before.
Mhm.
For the law enforcement bucket, and maybe this could help address some of Mr. Garcia's concerns. Were we requiring them to do active duty, or is it open to retired law enforcement as well?
Well, that would be your parents who are also law enforcement, so they could be active
Or
or
retired.
retired, but they would be considered a law enforcement, like expert, yeah, that have the
But
expertise in
I-
law enforcement, so it could be retired, active.
So I just thought that might be what it addressed Mr. Garcia's concern, like if it's
part of the.
Could be a person that does it for school time.
retired law enforcement officer who wants,
I think it's great work,
Obviously, I'm not-
couple of adjustments, but awesome.
thank you for the work.
You're welcome.
We will move forward with this, and we'll keep the board apprised as it develops.
Thank you. What's my spot here? Okay, here we go. The next one has to do with Board of Education Advisory Committee, School Facilities and Capital Planning, and I think this was a charge from the board. Again, in terms of setting up citizen action committees that would be focused on helping to develop the plan and strategy for renovations, significant renovations, capital improvements, et cetera. At this point, I'll turn it over to Dr. Selena to
So this committee's function, obviously, I'll be working with our Director of Facilities, who's here with us tonight, Mr. Borchaska, and obviously we co-chaired. The recommendation is one Board of Education member, one Central Office Administrator. We would meet prior to the meetings that we would have during the year. We would be sharing kind of where we are at this point in time, what the plan is from the district at this point in time. It also opens up the floor for people to make suggestions, et cetera, that would be interested. And what we look to do is to get a cross-section of people again and randomize it in the same way. That's basically the crux of it. It's nothing uncommon that we haven't seen before. But basically the details are included inside of this document. I think, obviously all these things can be revisited in the future if they're gonna be standing committees after year one. But this would give an opportunity for those people that feel that they'd like to add input for the committee members to actually consider, and that'd be fine too.
So, similar question to I had before. Are these meetings open to people to sit in and listen as they're being deliberated, or?
This committee specifically, since there's no decision-making power, they're not making any recommendations. It's basically a communication, which will be in the end given back to the board at some point in time. All right, so meaning they're not setting out with an advice, they're not coming back. It's very similar different than the security one. It's basically an opportunity for people to hear about what's going on inside the districts. And if people have additional comments to what the plans are and want to augment it, they could definitely offer them. So I don't see any reason why not, for this, because that would be something that, would be common. But I guess we'd have to really set up the structure a little bit more and talk more about it. the members are representatives of the community that will be contributing at this point in time. And they would be the voice box of the community.
These also randomized or?
Absolutely.
Just curious, I'm sorry, I didn't look at the public version of
worries.
the agenda. Were these attachments included in the public version? Do we know that?
No, not until the board decides that it's gonna be something, they'll be made available though.
Okay, so I just had two comments after I had a chance to read this in more depth. In terms of things that I think I would prefer to modify. The first one had to do with the, give the opportunity to the board obviously to express their opinion as well. This is just my opinion. So there's a role for co-chairpersons, one Board of Education member, and one central office person, administrator. And I did look at other bylaws that were written in other districts, and usually there's a chairperson and a vice chairperson versus two co-chairpersons. And from my perspective, I think that that's a good model because you have a person directing kind of the discussion, and there's leadership, but it should also be collaborative, right? So my point on this would be that we would have a chairperson, a vice chairperson, the chairperson being a Board of Ed member, the vice chairperson being a central administration individual. So that would be the one tweak that I wanted to bring up. The other tweak that I would like the board to consider as we're examining these bylaws is that there's a meeting schedule discussed here. And it talks about there'll be 4 meetings per year. What I would like to say is a minimum 4 meetings per year, and at their discretion, they can add to it. And then the other thing I was concerned with is the rest of the paragraph, where personally I would strike it. I feel like I wouldn't want people to feel like they're rushing to get through a meeting. And I understand the point of having time limitations because things can get long-winded and nobody wants to be there potentially all night to discuss too many topics. But those were my first initial reactions to tweaks that I would make to this. Otherwise, I think this is laid out really well, and I'm fully in support of this committee.
I think as written, it does, so first of all, the vice chairperson of the board can decide on that, that's fine. That person, I guess it would, I would want to know what their responsibilities would be in the process. Remember, someone's got to get together, someone has to prepare the information with the agendas, and someone has to actually create what we're going to be presenting. So we have a number of people involved, and people need to be available to do that. So if more people want to participate from the board, that's perfectly fine. As far as this setup, as far as meeting schedules, it does allow for as many meetings as this group does already as written. Any topic that requires more than the allotted time limits shall be tabled and scheduled as a separate special meeting. I will tell you, I've participated in multiple districts in this committee as different hats and roles in my years. And I will tell you that I've seen these meetings go 4 or 5 hours. The reality is it's a communication that we're basically looking to do. No one's rushed. If we feel that there's additional meetings that we should schedule, and schedule as many meetings as you want, you call them a special meeting. It gives you this right inside of here. And I think that you should really start off with a time. This is going to be an hour. We can go 15 minutes more, and then basically take it from there. You want to add more meetings, add as many as you want. That's up to the committee to decide, and the chair people.
So, I mean, when you say it's up to the committee to decide, what would typically be the process in terms of everyone votes on it? It's kind of a majority vote.
No, it just, the co-chair people would decide, a board member and the other, they would just decide and say, listen, it sounds like we need to talk about this guy, you want to comment on?
Sure. So I've done a lot of work in committees, consultation in my career, and learned over the years, how to tweak that out and improve it. I've read a lot on the topic, and they usually recommend an hour. Unless it's a special expert you're bringing in, then you could say, for this meeting, we need a half-hour presentation from whoever that person is, and then the committee will work for an hour. You have an agenda. You need a facilitator. There needs to be one person that's sole role is facilitating the meeting to keep it on task, because people's time is valuable. You don't want repetitive discussions, round and round we go. So there's a way to facilitate it in a way. If one item on the agenda starts to, not drag on is the wrong word, but be deliberated more and needs more time, I think, then the facilitator needs to reach out to the group and say, what, we get you for close to closing out, ask permission from the group, consensus, not a vote, to extend it for 15 minutes is usually the rule of thumb. You could go another 15 minutes if you wanted to. Typically, if you're gonna keep doing that, then what you do is you table that one item, and then at the end, you schedule another meeting just to talk, to continue that one topic, so that you can get through the other, 9 or 10 things on your agenda. And it really keeps things tight and moving along. I've sat on a lot of committees, Dr. Singh said that just facilitation, the facilitator was too engaged in should be engaged in discussion, but it was distracted by discussion and trying to validate people, which is important, really super important to validate people, write their thoughts up, check them off on the whiteboard, if there's repetitives, we got that 3 times, discuss that and get input from the committee. But if you don't keep it tight and you don't set a time limit, an initial time limit, it will get a little bit unruly from my experience. So again, you could say an expert half-hour presentation, an hour after that to deliberate, and then have as many meetings as you want on topics that you feel need more discussion. You introduce them at the meeting, but then if they're really going to take more time to discuss and you feel you need more expertise or more research, bring it back as a special meeting is my recommendation. But again, you can structure it any way that you want. And again, in these committees, this one has also the ability to survey, get input from the community, thought exchange of view on topics of things you're thinking about from the committee, which is important. You can get the broader community view, but you don't want, you want to keep it tight and get your job done so you can get recommendations from the community and bring it back to the board for further discussion. Always public presentations of the recommendations and advice of committees. But that's just from my perspective, but again, you can decide.
We can tweak it out as we go.
I think what you're
That
also,
sounds fair. I just.
what you're also
I wanted to
protecting.
explain it, that's all.
Yeah, no, and
There's
I
no limit.
appreciate that. It's helpful. And
People have time and that's the way they want to do it, then,
I mean, I think you raised valid points there, and I totally understand. I think, again, I forgot about the thought exchange component of this, which I think is a key factor in terms of being able to survey people and understand what's important.
And people coming prepared to the meeting, you don't need a meeting to hand out documents for people to read at the meeting, to drag the meeting on for 3 hours, right? People should come prepared. It's important to community members because they have to do the work. It is hard work being on a committee. So they have to read the documents, come prepared with the knowledge base so they can engage in questions and discussions and stick to, to tighter timelines, just my advice.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, please.
So just looking at the committee structure here, the members, the fourth one down, assistant superintendents, curriculum associates, building administrators and or teachers. Do we want to cap that? Because it seems like that could be like 10, 15 people. I don't know if there's a number.
So they'll only be present based upon, we're
Depends on
not
the
gonna
time.
pull them out of their buildings to come
Okay.
here to have a meeting if we're talking about something that's not relevant to education. So if it had to do with, if someone said that we were gonna talk about, I don't know, something that would be,
Elementary steam room.
Elementary steam rooms,
We need
right?
elementary
So I would
teachers,
need,
principals.
we would tap on a administrator from the elementary schools, not all 3 of them, and they would appear and they would speak on the topic.
Okay.
So it's not like we're gonna have like
Like
12
20 something.
administrators sitting in a
Okay.
room. They gotta work and they gotta be in their buildings. That's where I want them.
And the architect.
And they want to be here.
Okay. That was the only one that was about a cap. Director of facilities is
Makes
single
sense.
person, superintendent, single person. Okay.
Okay, so I think the only open item is the chairperson versus vice chairperson. Sorry, Mrs. Bender.
I just kind of want to speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's important, I like the way it's worded because we don't work for the district. So if we're trying to, as a board member, lead this committee, it's important to have somebody there that works for the district so we can work together. So I actually like the way, because vice and chair and vice have a hierarchy, whereas a co-chair, we're working together within this committee.
I've co-chaired committees for the SANs and things, and co-chairing is a little harder than sometimes it's hard. Like you're not even sure. Neither person's really sure who should be doing what. So
Are you doing the same position though? Like, when you co-chair at the Sands,
you sit there together and you kind of have to
but with
whisper
your
to each
same
other
job,
as through the chamber.
right? So you
We both have the
work-
same job.
Right,
No,
right,
no,
that's
no.
what I mean.
Career wise, no, we both have very different careers.
No.
But you're
She
put-
means
No,
in the
in terms of
committee.
process.
The responsibility.
The respect, yeah.
Yes, and it's, the guy's a great guy, but it's a little clunky because the only time we see each other really to speak and communicate, or I should say, get a flow for each other and understand each other's cadence is for the hour and a half meeting. So I think it does make it hard because somebody's gonna run the meeting. Somebody's gonna run the meeting, and if you have two people running the meeting, nobody's running it. is what I'm saying.
So first of all,
And it also may not matter that much.
co-chairs, the reason we went with the co-chair route, one of the major driving reasons is that one is the district resource, the other is the board member who is going to meet, create an agenda, and then they can work it out amongst themselves about who's gonna run the meeting, for lack of a better term. Meaning that I don't think we should be looking at each other and saying, are you gonna do this topic? Are you gonna do this topic? I think the agenda basically would probably come out from the single person, could be the board member, could be the district administrator, whatever they are comfortable with. I don't want to limit how that goes. And then whoever that person is, and there's another board member there, we're trying to get two board members to come. The idea behind it though, so there's already two board members that I would recommend to participate whenever possible. And then as far as the meeting I think it's a work in progress, you know, what I mean, basically they're gonna get together and they're gonna get a synergy together. But obviously, they're all collaborating on the agenda and, you know, how we meter that and who's gonna say the next topic is, because you're gonna probably be turning it back to the district personnel at that point in time to basically speak about the topic they're presenting. So it could be, you know, capital projects in the 24-25 school year and a status update, and they would they would have to get up and they would give a presentation to the committee about here's where we are. It's informational in that sense. That's really what these committee meetings, as we check with the other districts that have them, how they're doing them. And then, of course, then there's the question about, you know, then the district would present what their 5-year plan is. That's an architectural one that we pay for every 5 years. And then, you know, we could ask the architect to speak on that, and then that meeting may go a little bit longer, but I don't think we'll have a problem with synergy as far as the co-chairs being labeled the way that they are, but they can go back and forth and vibe off each other. But that, we could always, you know, take a look at that in a year from now and decide to tweak it out again. And whether you want to quote advice or not quote advice, still want two board members sitting in the room, you know, if whenever possible. That's up to you.
So the reason why I brought it up as a point is I just think of this board and how we operate. You have a president and a vice president. Although I read that the vice president's not required by law, but most boards have it because it's helpful, obviously, and I think that's proven itself true. I'll give people a little secret in terms of how we operate. I go to Mike for a lot. We talk about a lot of things when we're doing the agenda prep. Mike is always invited. A lot of things, you know, I rely on that person, but there's still a president, vice president, and you know, we work collaboratively.
But also the option to rotate facilitation. So,
Yeah, I
you
was
know,
gonna say, maybe it's
yeah.
not a bad idea in the sense that
That happens.
if the person that's the co-chair and not the vice chair can't make the meeting, at least the other person could sub in for that person possibly. But that would have been with the board member. You could have done that anyway, but if you want to formalize the title, I'm not opposed to it. That would just be the second board member, that's.
Any thoughts?
But I think I kind of, when you brought it up, I kind of envisioned the board member as the chair and the central admin as the vice chair. To have that, you know.
Well, since you can't create the agendas and deliver the agendas unless, of course, the board wants to take that sole responsibility, that's perfectly fine. But I think it's gonna be a collaboration between what the two want anyway, so you're gonna still have to be in the room together. How you title it or what you want to title it. Listen, I'm not married to any of it at this point in time. As far as like, I really know that these meetings can't run without the people that are appropriate to be involved with setting these agendas. Unless, of course, you say, listen, we want to set our own agenda, we're just gonna make our own agenda up and then.
No.
No, I'm saying, I don't want to
think
put that
that's
burden
possible.
on you. No, I'm saying, but that was the idea behind.
I think the
a model.
rationale from, I think the recommendation has enough rationale behind it. There's gonna be enough strong personality. If it's not going well, the board could always even make a change later. I don't think it matters.
All right, so let's.
The
I
only
think it's gonna be successful.
I wonder if I know I've gotten different requests for naming benches and fields and all kinds of different things. Is that something we should give this committee? So at least there's an outlet to kind of sit down to. Could be one of the objectives or one of the.
So what I would say is maybe we come to consensus on that, and then in between this topic and the next topic, we'll we'll talk about it unless there's a better place to have a conversation of that, because it feels like a new item to add.
Fair enough.
Related, but separate. So
What I would say is that we should remove, as far as.
it sounds like
What the
we're
board,
good with.
what happened, we decided after the fact. I think we need to get the structure in place, you need to
Right,
get the
sounds good.
people, you need to get the people together, and then basically you can figure that out, the two people that are, the three people that are working on this, Vice, Co, et cetera, whatever we call these people, they can work on it together and they can talk about it. And then if there's, a topic that they want to explore, fine. No, it's just a topic, it's another one. In the end, like I said before, it's gonna be a collaborative work in progress. We're gonna figure it out as we go, and we're gonna tweak it out. Okay, it's new to us, so we'll figure it out.
So next steps, is it to find consensus on this document the way it's currently worded?
And any of these changes that you would like, I'll write them down now. That's fine, or as is, up to you.
I mean, I think we take everyone's temperature on whether we're okay with the document as is, or whether they want to see a change. And then.
But you can definitely call the other person the vice chairperson. I'm not opposed to that, so if that's something you want to do.
Let's just go forward. as-
Let's just go with this, test the waters out, I
Yeah.
think.
I don't want to say no, you know that. So just saying,
I think
if you want it, great.
I think it's easiest to just test it out. Personally, this is my opinion, test it out the way it is, and.
After year one, we
if
can
there's an
adjust it
issue,
again.
or we think that things can work better, then we'll revisit again. And go from there. So, because I do want to advance this, personally sooner rather than later, because I think this is important to the community. And I don't want to delay it any further.
So it's gonna take us a process to get everything in order, but
Right.
yes, we're gonna expedite.
So, at this point, I guess.
As written consensus.
Yeah,
people supporting
looking for
it,
consensus.
supporting this committee as written. Please raise your hand if you're supporting it as written.
Okay.
We'll begin to expedite this.
So just for my own general knowledge, in terms of appointing the people, that would be next steps in terms of like a future board meeting or.
No, it's not, no, the board doesn't appoint the people, the names, so first of all, you're only going to need you're gonna need two board members, that's what you're gonna need.
So should we do that at this meeting and try to figure out who it is, or?
We can send out a little survey to the board who's interested, and then you can make a final decision. I think it'll be easier.
Okay.
And we don't need to take that time in a public meeting at this time. So, because not everybody will be available, et cetera, so we have to set the parameters.
Okay, so let's do a survey then.
That's perfect. I just want to keep it easy.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's fine.
All right.
All right, moving on to the next topic. Oh, sorry, Mr. Garcia, did you want to elaborate on what you raised before?
We've had different requests. I feel like it comes up. I met the deli and somebody's favorite teacher from a long time ago, and they want to name something after them. And I think there should be some sort of a way to direct people and some sort of policy or some sort of committee makes a lot of sense to kind of send those to. And just kind of get out of the business of the board having to make all those decisions.
I've never received an email or anything.
So I've received a lot of emails about naming the auditorium after Mr. Kirby.
Yeah,
But that's different. You said a bench.
I've had
Well,
benches, I don't know that I
We haven't
certainly can
turned,
tell you
just
about
so
that.
you know, we haven't never turned any away for benches. We just basically, we put, because we're always looking for furniture anyway, so I'm just saying as a practice. But, we do control and I do see, with our director of facilities, what they're looking for signage. We're not looking for them to put up a 3x3, memorial. As far as like on the back of the bench, when you're gonna sit on it, so we do discreetly put it on the rear of the benches typically. But that's something that's been handled all along. The other one you're talking about is very different, and I can speak about that at another time. But that part, listen, people want to do lots of different things, and they're very kind in this community, and we've never had a problem taking donations from people before. You already control that process here. The donations come to the Board of Education. The board chooses to accept them or not. All right, and so that's specific to that, as far as like, I think that takes care of the benches or any type of things that go on. The other problem is that people want to donate live things sometimes for us. And meaning like, I want to create a garden, or I want to create this. That's not maintainable. So I would rather the board allow that to be part of operations for us right now, to keep the board out of that. The other question that you're bringing up is very different, and we could talk about that at another time. That in itself, as far as like, specifically identifying one single person when there are so many, groups of people that have retired over the years, figuring out and validating that is just absolutely impossible. I mean, for staff, because the truth of the matter is, I could give you amazing people at every single level that people would say, I remember that person, the nurse, and all these different positions. How would you do it equitably? I couldn't see you being able to do that.
I can speak to my time working in the city schools where there's a specific chances regulation that outlines the exact policies and protocols and how things can be named and should be named and how they're named. It's chances regulation A, something, it's at the very end of the A regulations. I know in the city, obviously, the guideline for buildings, parts of buildings, and structures. I know I can say from the city, because I recall from my time working there that in order to name a part of a building after an individual, it has to be a donation or a grant that supported that. So the library from the state senator. Otherwise, and I think maybe what Mr. Garcia was alluding to was sort of saying some sort of formalized policy that we could direct people to sort of guidelines.
Yeah, I mean,
so that you take the back and forth of, oh, this person deserved it, that person deserves it. And
I mean, in that same
policy,
vein,
maybe this committee could consider that policy.
in that vein, the floodgates got opened up last year. We started doing it, now we're not doing it for other people, and it gets unfair. So I
think it's a little different on that. I don't know what you're alluding to, but I think we should continue this conversation. And the idea behind it, though, is that there's precedent that's been set in this district before, et cetera. So as far as that, but there's nothing wrong. You're about to engage in an agreement is what my recommendation is, policy review. You could talk to the attorneys about that. And that's something that, listen to me, they have at their disposal. They write policies for every single school district that they service. So that would be an easy one to add on to the list to have a discussion with for the people that look to serve on that committee from the board.
Yeah, so on this particular topic, what I would say is, I recently had board officers training, and was invited on the board officer forum. Some people may know this exists for people. It's ran by NYSBA, this forum. One of the topics that actually was pretty recently on there as of February 2024 was exactly about this, and another president and another school district raising this question. And there was, not a lot of back and forth, but there were some points made. And I think after reading that, it pointed to a weakness in terms of like how we do this. And so with that being said, I think it is something that is a policy that should be formalized. I think, again, we're maybe jumping the gun a little bit here, and we have something to discuss with respect to that. But because of the emotions involved in something like this, what I would like to do is actually put a motion forward where we put a stay in terms of naming any structures, or any types of memorials, et cetera. There's a stay at this point until the policy is formalized for anything that was suggested by the community, prior boards, et cetera, after the naming of the Brian Moore Athletic Center. So anything from that date forward to today, and until we have a policy set forward, I think we put a stay on those decisions. So I'd like to put a motion forward for that.
How can this be an old business?
What?
This can be an old business. We got so off topic. I thought you were talking about a bench, and now we're talking about the music
I think we're
ring.
talking about-
And then we said we were gonna talk about that next time. Like, what is happening?
I think it's all relative to pausing things until there's a policy in place.
But we're talking about a committee. Forming a committee, and now we're talking about changing, like, can we?
We're saying not to change.
No.
We're saying let's take a break on what.
But that's not even what we were talking about. We were talking about a committee, forming a committee.
I mean,
Why are we here now?
We,
Right, but then the next thing, are we changing policy or
So the next thing has to do with re-examining policy. So it's all, as I look at it, it's all part of the same trajectory. We were just talking about facilities. We're talking about how we name facilities, and the next thing we're talking about is revamping all the Board of Ed policies. So, Mr. Garcia, and I give this courtesy to everyone, when they want to raise a topic, they're free to do it. I kind of take a different approach in terms of how, I want to interact with people during a board meeting, and I want people to voice their opinions. I'm not looking to shut anyone's voice down. Mr. Garcia raised something, and we started talking about it. And I think it's important that sometimes we feel like things are being rushed and decisions are being made without proper community input. And so what I want to do is just, not saying that we do or don't do something, we pause on something, right? And that's the point of the committee, in my opinion, the Capital Improvements Committee, is that a lot of projects get done, they move through quickly, there's not enough community input. So what I'm trying to do is be a little bit more deliberative about the process, and that's across the board. And I think we owe that to the taxpayers and to the community. And so that's what we're doing here. So I'm not saying no to what was done in the past, but I'm saying, let's just put a pause on it, progress in the right fashion, so that people feel like, whether it's thought exchange or whatever, we figure out what the right procedure is, and then we move forward.
Yeah, the board reserves the right and has, specifically for what you're speaking about here, which, I don't even understand why we're having this topic of conversation right now, because we're talking about a policy book that hasn't been reviewed in numerous years. I did what the board asked, and now you're looking to, attack something that, has been done before by boards of education in this district. Naming, and that's buildings, and I have historical data on that. The board has done this before. This is not just for some person that walked in off the street. It's a person that had delivered many years of service to the district. The board took an action on it, and now it appears like we're rolling on this at this point in time because we don't have a policy. All right, the board acted on it before. The reality is that the board itself, back in these other times, had the ability and the right to do it, and they did it. Right, you want to talk about moving forward, I say you do it moving forward. Let's finish what we started as far as what we came here to do tonight. Let's get the policy committee together. And as far as taking motions and such like that, I would ask the board to consider what I'm sharing at this point in time, because I don't think that they're related at the moment. I think this is a specific policy, and I also think at the same time that there hasn't been, further discussion about this. And the previous board took action on it in a public session. I think the spirit of what it was is similar to what happened to John H. West, as well as Charles E. Schwarting, right? And the boards basically named the buildings after them at that point in time, and that's my opinion.
I think we have a motion on the floor. We have a motion, second.
Yeah, so I'd like to question the motion. So I think basically what you're trying to do is overturn that a previous board put Kathy Flanagan's name on a music wing. It was voted that way. What you need to do is have a proposal to take her name off that tonight. So publicly do that. That's what you're looking to do.
That's not what we're looking to do at all.
Yeah, well,
What we're saying is,
you're going around it a different way by trying to go around it. That's all.
no, not at all. I think that we rush through the decision sometimes, and I think saying that we're gonna take a pause, look at this constructively, right? And then move forward from that point of view is the right way to go about it. And, we can disagree on that, but no one's saying to remove it. Might get to that point, but right now, what we're saying is we need to study it. There's emotions involved. I've received numerous emails, and you can foil it, Mr. Kirby, about, naming the auditorium after them. And I'm sure those people feel like they have just as much right to name something after a teacher who I had and thought he was a wonderful theatrical director. Those people feel just as strongly. But they don't have a say because they don't sit on the board. And I think that's unfair. So what I'm saying is we should have a more deliberative process when we're honoring people to make sure that there is more consensus around that. And it's not just made up by 7 people. We're not making that decision. What I'm saying is let's put a pause on it, get more input, have a policy, have a way that we actually think about things in a logical, chronological way, and then move forward.
I knew we'd end up here at this point in time, so let's just do whatever you want to do with this.
I really don't understand though. Next on the agenda is the proposal to look at the school district's policy manual. Why are we even having this discussion? We'll look at the manual and we'll make, I mean, the building is not even built. I don't understand. And it was never, there was, once again, like, there's action going on, and I'm, maybe you, I don't know, the last to know. Like, this is very interesting to me, the way this wants to play out. Like, I understand, look at policy committee. Great, I read this, I agree, let's look at policy. And then now,
Yeah, I mean,
to
look,
that
you know,
question, I think the point came up with the capital improvement committee. It shifted to Mr. Kirby, and we heard why that didn't make sense, because there's so many people that had great achievements here in Plain Edge. And I think it just ended up here.
right, so that's what I'm saying, like, why don't we stop? Like, I didn't understand where it got.
Motion's for. So the motion.
No, stop talking about it, and we'll revisit it when we
We have a motion.
revisit all the policies. If that's what you're
Jen, you're
saying.
gonna force the motion to take Kathy's name off the building. That's what this is about.
But I heard a
Let's be
bench at
honest.
first.
How's the motion? You didn't say.
So I'd like to put the motion up to put a stay in terms of how we name structures, benches, memorials, etc., until the policy is devised, which is the next topic item. So a stay in all names and naming of structures post the Brian Moore Athletic Center.
That was the motion. I think there was a second.
No, actually, there wasn't even a first.
Okay, so
This
the
maybe
first,
we can't make
does
the
anyone
motion.
want to approve that motion?
So move, yeah.
Second? Mr. Garcia, all in favor? Opposed?
4 in favor, 2 opposed, motion carried.
Next topic is sorry, here we go. Proposed comprehensive overview of Plain School District Policy Manual. I'll turn it over.
But I thought that was it. But,
No, it's not. It's,
no, I know it wasn't, but that's my point. That's where we got to policy. And then before we even got to this, you brought that up. So that's not, it's, I mean, you guys have it, you're for, but that just seems very, you know, how I feel every day, no conversation. It's fine. But
Well, we're not allowed to have
that
conversation
happened.
between.
And I mean, it
You're
happened.
not allowed. So if you're not, you're on the same emails I'm on.
Right. I mean,
It always feels like there's nothing happening until we get to a meeting.
no,
The only
It
conversation.
should have been a
all
new
seem
business
to
item,
know.
is what it
The-
should have
the
been.
only-
Like I
all
was
seem
told
to
to
know.
do, to have my item discussed, put it on a new business item. So, but if that's the way we're gonna operate, then you can bring anything up anytime on
You
the
did
floor.
last meeting.
Hmm?
You did last meeting as well. Like that's
That's
allowable.
Yeah, you can bring anything up you want, of course.
So.
And I'm not done with
the
that.
next thing.
I think with the policy committee, the topics are.
Want to elaborate on that?
No, not at
Okay,
all.
I just wanted to make sure you had time.
Yeah. No, not publicly.
I think with the policy committee, the concerns were addressed with the special capital planning committee. And I suggest moving forward with the policy committee, this present to the school and to the central administrative staff.
I'll turn it over to Dr. Steve for that.
Policy review committee is as written. My recommendations included inside of there. There are other districts that, and I've participated in over the years. It's a process, takes typically 2.5 years. And they basically prioritize, they work with the legal counsel in order to do this. And then they basically revise the policies upon recommendations. The pace is basically set by the committee, could take longer, could take less. You initially have a face-to-face meeting and the other meetings are done via some type of remote. So that's basically what the proposal is at this point in time, consideration. And I just need the board to give direction.
I think I'm in favor of it. I think it was mentioned before that the policies haven't been updated for the most part in quite a long time. I think when you look at the timestamp on them, I think they date back to maybe 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, what was that, Doc?
You know, a lot of them are pretty old at this point, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it does deserve a refresh. Lots of things have changed. There are things that are missing, as we had discussed during the agenda prep session. You know, I was uncertain if we should have another policy or not. And so having, legal counsel who are specialized in developing policies and ensure that there's not conflicting policy as well as developing new policy, I think is important. So I would be in favor of this.
Me
I
too.
think we spoke to the concerns regarding the structure and came to a consensus at the last policy, with the last committee. And I suggest moving forward with it as proposed.
Right, so, like to see if the board, if there's consensus to move forward with this proposal by Ingerman Smith to, help us refresh our policies. So I'm in favor of it. I guess there's four of us. Anyone who's not in favor of refreshing the policies or adding new policies?
Not paying
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
$15,000 plus. That's only for 60 hours. This is for 3 years, the proposal. It's gonna be a lot more than that.
You want to all sit together and try to do the policies ourselves or let a lawyer do it? I think a lawyer, well, the director has to.
That's up to you if you want to pay that.
I think it's money well spent, we need to freshen up our policy book, so. It's money well spent, and this is the direction of the school district, so it's very important. It's $15,000 well spent, so.
So I think we have consensus to move forward with this. Moving on to the next topic, which is proposed Board of Education annual goal setting. I think the purpose of this is that the Board of Ed, we're required to set goals for ourselves. And we have obviously a lot of new faces on the board. Some people who are new faces on the board, were on the board before and may have some knowledge in terms of how this is done. But the goal here is to engage professionals in providing development to the board so that we can set effective goals for the Board of Education on a go forward and provide the appropriate training and processes and timelines to do that. So with that being said, obviously everyone received a handout in terms of what's involved here. In terms of what was presented, I don't have any questions. I think it was Mr. Garcia who reached out to Logan Valley to see if Dr. Hawkins and Dr. DeLuca, what value they found out of it. Mr. Garcia, you have anything you want to add?
I just asked if, how they found them, in their process, and she said it was a very positive process.
And knowing Mrs. Marchand, I think she's pretty difficult to please.
I would imagine so.
So I think if she found it to be a worthwhile endeavor, it probably would be beneficial to us. So it's something that I'd like to have consensus to move forward and engage Dr. Hawkins and Dr. DeLuca on this.
So,
Sure.
just a quick question, when do you see us doing this, next month, or we have to make a special meeting for this?
I think it was it referenced in the email when they might be, well, I guess we could reach out and see, what their timeline looks
We're
like.
typically talking about 3 to 5 sessions, and those sessions can be defined, as they go. Could be more, depends what the charge is. Yeah, I mean, it's not a standard just answer on that.
Right. And in terms of cost, it's $1,600 per session.
I believe also, there are, options to have that covered by, or a portion of it covered by BOCES as well.
Anyone have any questions or comments on this?
That's good, we need to do this, so, yeah.
Okay.
I've heard that, or nothing but good things about them as presenters and their knowledge on the subject matter.
Okay, great. We looking to move forward on this? Do we have consensus on it? Okay. All right. Informational reports. Any questions on the informational reports? No. Okay, moving on to section 10, opportunity for public comment. All comments are directed to the Board of Education present. Each speaker is requested to their time to 2 minutes in total. Each speaker is encouraged to use the microphone and clearly state their name.
Good evening, Perry Fuchs, President, Planners Federation of Teachers. So a couple of things tonight, I'll be quick. First, I'm very excited. We had a great NTI, New Teacher Institute. We had almost 30 new educators, and I wanted a quick shout out to Debbie Fallon, our Teacher Center Director, and Dr. DiPaola, who set it up and spent hours and hours and hours preparing. We had 100% of our new teachers join the PFD, which is an expectation. They understand the importance of our union and the role that we play in the school district. Secondly, I want to be very clear about this too. The PFT has absolutely no interest in seeing anything other than maybe a bench from a deceased member named in any building whatsoever. We take it as an insult that any one teacher would be recognized over any other teacher. We all do the important work of educating children every day. And every student has their favorite teacher. Every teacher makes an impact. And to say that Mr. Kirby made any more impact than Mr. Shaver or Mr. Cipriano or Mr. Como or Ms. Thurl or whatever educator or administrator is absurd. So the PFT would never support that, not in a million years. So I would urge you to seriously reconsider naming anything after an educator, as every educator in this district would be insulted by that. Lastly, and I'll keep this remark very short, I'm very disappointed in this board. We've been here for 3 hours and I've heard very little discussion about making education better in Plainage. I've heard a lot of committee discussion. I've heard a lot of resolution discussion. But the number one job of the Board of Ed is to improve education. And lastly, I don't even know what the heck that was before, but very disappointed to see what was like a sham motion about a stay, and we all know what it was. It was very simple. It was to stop the naming of the music wing after Kathy Flanagan, a woman who dedicated 2 decades to this district, countless achievements with Mr. Paris and Ms. Maggio. The current board, with the exclusion of Maggio and Paris and Sonny Spagnuolo, has actually accomplished nothing. So I really just can't believe that. And all I can say is that when you are voted off the board, and that time will come, I sincerely hope that the future board treats this board with as much disrespect and disdain that was shown toward Kathy Flanagan tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else who has anything to say?
Hi, Kathy Versace. I'm a middle school and a high school student. I actually am pivoting off of the last comment. I'm actually here the longest I've ever been here. And I have to say, this is the most I've ever learned in a board meeting. I actually loved how you conversed with the entire board and explained things that I would never understand. There are parents that are new, just learning how it all works. I actually think that I learned more today than I have in the last 13 years that I've been here. So kudos to everyone that showed up tonight and gave their input and explained, and good job.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so we're going to the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second. Pascal, all in favor?
That's just a favor, motion carried.
Good night, everyone.